All right, welcome back, everyone. Still telling me I'm unstable. That's interesting. Um, I am sorry to do this. I am actually going to take a minute here and just see if Twitch can offer me a little bit of okay. I think they're just making stuff up. So I apologize for the you know what? Here's one other one. I just want to see here if they've I want to see if they've changed the maximum bit rate. Okay, that's fine. Everything here is excuse me. I suppose there's one other possibility here, which would be related to the variable or consistent. But you know what? I am not going to bother with that. So, I apologize. Oh, here we go. Now it says I'm in excellent health. All right. That is, of course, counter to my physical health, but that's a separate story. So, thank you, everybody, for putting up with maintenance for the first 3 minutes of the broadcast. Again, a late start for today, and that's another work thing. I am feeling better than I was on Wednesday, and I do apologize to those of you who are expecting a stream on Friday. I was as well, but I was definitely feeling very sick, and I'm sure I don't sound 100%, but I am definitely feeling much better. I wanted to take the minute to just explain, for those of you that like the Book of Hours broadcasts, I do just want to warn you that I only have today's episode recorded. I am going to try to do the other ones tomorrow, but that's at least 90 minutes of recorded material, and then of course the time it takes to sort of get everything set up and ready to go. So, and of course all of that is contingent on me feeling better. But I don't know, I think there's a bit of stability in terms of just what I'm doing at work being sorted out. There's a couple of reasons why I had to start the time that I did today, but I'm starting to sort of narrow in on the I'm starting to narrow in on what I need to get done to have everything handled. Oh dear. Okay, just one more minute here. Yes. Okay. Yep, we're fine. So we are going to be returning to our, it has an autosave here. I thought I had a manual save. We're going to be returning to the DLC. This was, I believe, the first DLC for Old World, Heroes of the Aegean. It came out around the time that it ceased to be an Epic exclusive. I believe it was made available to everybody who already owned the game at that time. I think also anybody who bought the game sort of within the first week. But it's a neat one. This is, I believe, the third scenario. And it is dealing with Philip II, who was a very significant figure. I think to a certain extent, Alexander, very rightly has the reputation that he does, as this great military man. Oh, you know what? It looks like the autosave actually has me doing the silly attacks. So let's see what happens with that. But yes, Alexander the Great. I mean, he's called the Great for a reason. But I'm sorry. Where I wanted to go with this is he inherited conditions which allowed him to do well. I mean, I think some people would say that what Alexander did was largely fulfill his father's ambitions, which of course is not to deny his own ability. It's more just to sort of highlight the conditions under which those conquests occurred. This is an interesting scenario, so there are a couple of factors at play that make this interesting for me. Number one is the fact that I have... so I like this game a lot, and I actually got to play it in sort of an early state. But I do have a tendency to sort of fall back to my old Civilization ways, and I'm certainly not a hardcore Civ player. I love Civ. And I like getting better at Civ, but I am not one of these people who, like in general, I don't like sitting down and reading a lot of guides to games. I like to sort of play around with them, do things, and in some cases, one thing I like about Civilization is that whole process of building something and making the civilization, which is different from sort of playing it as a strategy game that is, intended to have a certain set of outcomes. Or, that basically I'm planning on playing it with friends and I want to, beat the pants off of them, in my own matches. So, my tendency to fall back on Civ tendencies can really hurt me in this one. And I've been guilty of that many times, particularly in this scenario, where when we go to war with the Athenian alliance, we just get absolutely clobbered. On top of that, there is... I also like to take my time. Now, Old World will solve that by giving you a fixed number of turns, anyway. But on top of all of that, this scenario hews pretty closely to history. So Philip is essentially destined to die the way that Philip died in history. And that means that you need to get on with it. You need to achieve what Philip did, otherwise you don't pass the scenario. This is actually one of the reasons why I brought up the idea that Alexander can be seen as sort of fulfilling his father's ambitions. Because I don't know if this is the intention of the scenario, but you can sort of see how you could make an argument that that's what the scenario is. That ultimately, if you cannot create the conditions for Alexander's conquest, then Alexander does not become Alexander the Great. You can't progress onto that. So anyways, it's a neat one for me just simply because it attacks me in a couple of cases where I'm weak in Old World. I think I'm getting a little bit better at not treating it always like Civ, although I'm always going to have that problem with this game, particularly when I've had some time away from it. The other factor is that it is definitely a much more military-focused game, and I have a feeling that that is going to come up when I try to take on the Athenian Alliance. And then finally, the simple idea of just getting on with it. So I suspect I should be able to handle Thessaly, and what I've tried to do to get past some of my worst tendencies is I'm already working on Illyria, so we have kind of two groups that are doing their thing, with the intention of having all of my forces in place to sort of focus down the Greeks, ideally at with a fairly rapid set of attacks. Hey, Oswin Meow, how are you doing? I didn't get a chance to read any of my information science textbook, but I'm always happy. Like, I sometimes wish that I could stay a little bit longer in your stream than I do, but whether we wind up chatting afterwards or whether we wind up chatting in your stream, I always feel like I need to raise my game in terms of you know, the subjects that I'm reading and engaging with. So for those of you that do not know Oswin Meow, she's going through Disco Elysium again, or well, rather back to Disco Elysium, and I am having a lot of fun watching it, although she's well past the parts that I personally have encountered. So but in any case, a wonderful broadcaster is a real honest-to-God scientist, and we're actually having a little bit of chat about mathematics. There may be a blog that I wind up writing as a result of that, actually, but I will save that for when it is written. But Oswin is a very interesting individual, and I don't want to just reduce a broadcaster down to their profession. But I think is a very thoughtful person, is somebody who is a lot of fun to talk to. And I've now had the pleasure of watching her play Helldivers 2 as well as Disco Elysium. So definitely a high recommendation in terms of broadcasting. And also I get the impression new to streaming, and so someone who I'm sure would appreciate the support. But yeah, I definitely owe you. I really liked hearing your perspectives on information theory and how it mapped to your own stuff, because, you know, that example that I get. I'm sorry, this is going to be addressed to an audience of exactly one, but we might as well get it out of the way, and then we can focus on the conquest of Greece. But I thought what was interesting about this was it really did remind me of that researcher that I wasn't in the same class as him, but it was this econ researcher who really liked talking about how stupid the people in his specialty were, and how they didn't know what they were talking about. And it gave, I mean, to a certain extent, you know, there but for the grace of God go I, but like in his case, what I got the impression of once I understood the subject a little bit better was that he was focusing a whole lot on the imperfections in their models, which is completely appropriate, right? We talked about how that can sometimes be the source of your own contribution, or maybe the point in which your studies diverge and potentially allow you to discover something that your peers are not looking for. But the difficulty here was that he was, I think he was trying to like rush to get his, you know, tuxedo for the prize ceremony in Stockholm. I think he was a little too eager to get his Nobel without actually doing the work for the Nobel. And so it's one thing to have that criticism, but the drawback is that ultimately what he delivered was no better than the models that they offered. And I saw the results. They were effectively slightly better than chance. We're talking like, I think, a 52% success or something like that. So I don't even know if I mean, there might have been a really, really large sample, or there might have been some, you know, something that allowed him to have, you know, very low variance, but like 52%. I'm paraphrasing here, but like that's not the sort of result you really want to be showing people as like a major contribution. But yeah, it was interesting because being able to talk to you about this sort of made me appreciate it's like, okay, yeah, so, the old saying, all models are wrong, but some models are useful. And then sort of thinking what my prior was when you were explaining your problem, and then sort of you're very humble the way you sort of talked about not necessarily having the math, which is fine because I don't have the math either. But it was really interesting to just sort of hear how you were describing it in terms of the problem and how well it fit, which I actually think is the right way to go about it. Because the more we talked, the more I was sort of realizing is like, well, this could be, the confusion could be stemming from the fact that it's actually not really a good fit. And I thought that was really interesting. So anyways, so for those of you that like those kinds of conversations, Oswin's a good pick. And for those of you that know information theory, I think in particular, we'd like to talk to you. Now, how much do you know about ancient Greece, Oswin? Because I can try and give you the story so far. All right, let's see what the consequences of my actions. Well, the nice or not so nice thing about mathematics is that there's a whole hell of a lot of it. So you'll never be bored. You'll never run out of things. But okay. So we are playing as Philip II of Macedon. It talked a little bit about the conditions. Essentially, we didn't necessarily just naturally become king of Macedonia. We took the job, for lack of a better term, and through a succession of strategic marriages as well as military conquests, we have been slowly expanding the influence of Macedon on the map. We lost our eye in combat, in fact, so that was a real thing that happened to Philip. And right now we are dealing with Demosthenes, who was a real individual. For those of you that like movies or musicals, the musical My Fair Lady with Audrey Hepburn in it, there is this sequence where she's getting elocution lessons from Henry Higgins, and he puts a bunch of stones in her mouth, and those are known as Demosthenes stones. And that is the same Demosthenes. But anyways, Demosthenes wasn't crazy about Philip. So, in any case, the rest of the Greek world is sort of recognizing this rising power of Macedonia. Some of them are getting concerned. Our job is to accomplish a number of conquests. The game sort of lets us know what we can do. But one of the things that's interesting about this scenario is that we do need to accomplish them before the death of Philip II. Philip II was assassinated, and his son, who you can see right here, Prince Alexander, inherited the throne. And we happen to know quite a bit about Prince Alexander because you might have heard of him through the name of Alexander the Great. And I was talking a little bit earlier how there's sort of this interesting idea about the way that the scenario is set up, is that if you ultimately do not accomplish Philip's conquests, there's this idea that Alexander is largely fulfilling the ambitions of his father. So there's this interesting implication in this scenario, because the next scenario is in fact Alexander. But what's interesting about this one is that if you do not succeed in Philip's conquest, you don't get to go on to the Alexander ones. And so the idea here is that Alexander, despite being this tremendously influential general, somebody who really captured the Greek imagination, or not just Greek imagination, captured history's imagination, and many military leaders who came afterwards studied and wanted to emulate his conquests. But ultimately, whether this is a historical position or not, the way that Here's the Aegean works is that if Philip is not able to accomplish what he sets out to do, then there is the conditions under which Alexander can become the Great don't exist. Thus, you cannot become Alexander the Great, which I think is a neat idea. So, the third Philippic. I actually have some Demosthenes speeches with me, but I know the Gorgias reading didn't work so well last week, so I'll move on to the battles. The third Philippic. Another speech by the wretched Demosthenes stirs the citizenry of the Athenian alliance to see you as a threat to all of the Athenian alliance and the Greece that they believe should exist. Demosthenes argues that you are already at war, even if no such formal declaration has been made. The people are especially roused by his claim that you had destroyed settlements in Thrace so ruthlessly that a traveler would find it hard to say whether they had ever been inhabited, and that you robbed the Thessalians of their freedoms and enslaved them tribe by tribe. Demosthenes goes on to attack the very idea of you being a Greek ruler, saying that you are not only no Greek, nor related to the Greeks, but not even a barbarian from any place that could be named with honor, but a pestilent knave from Macedonia, whence it was never yet possible to buy a decent slave. With such words there can be no peace. When the time comes for your armies to march into the Athenian alliance, Demosthenes will discover that no speech can defend against a well-trained phalanx. The insults are coming from a man who has no other defense. Now, one of the things I do like to do during Old World is talk about the history. Normally, there are history balloons or little links inside of the game. I'm going to make an exception on this one. I'm actually going to take the time to talk about this because I think this is maybe apparent, but I don't think I've ever talked about this on its own. I am quite interested in rhetoric. There is just something about this idea of persuasive speech and the ability to choose the right words, and it's not... So I don't necessarily like the idea of sophistry, right? What you want to do is, I like the type of oratory that is... Or not just oratory, you could also have written works as well. But that's having all of the... It has to have in my view, it has to have the content as well as the sort of style to make it persuasive. This will actually have... If I ever get some of these projects off the ground, this will actually have quite a bit to do with some things that I'm hoping to show you in the future. But even just being able to sit down and, read certain speeches. So for instance, if you are into this stuff, or even if you're just into classics, you can read something like the Gettysburg Address, and you can see that Lincoln is referring to the funeral oration of Pericles, which I believe is recorded in the Greek historian Thucydides. And then, you have Churchill, obviously a very, very well-studied individual and also recognized for his oratory. There's a lot. I have actually a whole set of Loeb classics with Quintilian, the rhetorician. So, the fact that I have Demosthenes lying around is not just me being a nerd, but actually being a very specific kind of nerd. And so in this case, I'm actually going to take the time to talk a bit about Demosthenes. Demosthenes, 384 to 12th of October 322 BC, was a Greek statesman and orator in ancient Athens. His orations constitute a significant expression of contemporary Athenian intellectual prowess and provide insight into the politics and culture of ancient Greece during the 4th century BC. Demosthenes learned rhetoric by studying the speeches of previous great orators. There's actually also, a legend that he had a speech impediment, and one of the ways that he became a better orator was by trying to deliver his speeches over the sounds of the crashing ocean waves, as well as the Demosthenes sounds and such. Some of these are obviously, legendary. I don't know how many of these are actual useful techniques, but he delivered his first judicial speeches at the age of 20, in which he successfully argued that he should gain from his guardians what was left of his inheritance. For a time, Demosthenes made a living as a professional speechwriter and a lawyer, writing speeches for use in private legal suits. Demosthenes grew interested in politics during his time as a logographer, speechwriter, and in 354 BC he gave his first public political speeches. He went on to devote his most productive years opposing Macedon's expansion. He idealized his city and strove throughout life to restore Athens' supremacy and motivate his compatriots against Philip II of Macedon. This is us. He sought to preserve his city's freedom and to establish an alliance against Macedon in an unsuccessful attempt to impede Philip's plan to expand his influence southward, conquering the Greek states. After Philip's death, Demosthenes played a leading part in his city's uprising against the new king of Macedonia, Alexander the Great. However, his efforts failed, and the revolt was met with a harsh Macedonian reaction. To prevent a similar revolt against his own rule, Alexander's successor in the region, Antipater, sent his men to track Demosthenes down. Demosthenes killed himself to avoid being arrested by Archias of Thurii, Antipater's confidant. The Alexandrian canon, compiled by Aristophanes of Byzantium and Aristarchus of Samothrace, called Demosthenes one of the 10 great Attic orators and logographers. Longinus likened Demosthenes to a blazing thunderbolt and argued that he had perfected to the utmost the tone of lofty speech, living passions, copiousness, readiness, speed. Quintilian extolled him as lex orandi, the standard of oratory. Cicero said that inter omnes unus excellat, one exceeds among all, and praised him as the perfect orator who lacked nothing. I'd love to read all of this here, but as you can see, there is actually quite a bit. So I'm maybe going to hold off, and if we get a chance, maybe we will we'll talk a bit about more about Demosthenes. But I think this stuff, I actually really think this stuff is worth looking up. It's one of the reasons why I've always loved Civilization. It was sometimes my first exposure to some of this kind of history, and it is ultimately the gateway through which I came to love so much of this. And so there's a lot of reasons why I like some of the story elements towards the game, and for those of you that like understanding the development of games, there is the Designer Notes podcast, which is hosted by Soren and Layla Johnson, and they do actually talk. It's actually quite romantic, if I'm allowed to say so. Just, I realize that's not my usual style to talk about, but them talking about kind of doing these long road trips where they're talking about ideas of, talking about ideas in terms of how all the different dialogue trees, or all the different, not dialogue trees, but all the different sort of paths and stories can go. I don't know. I've noticed I actually like playing a lot of games by husband and wife teams, and I don't necessarily think that's just a coincidental thing. I think there is something about that dynamic that allows at least some types of games to really have their best come out. But for those of you that do want to know a little bit about some of the choices that went into this, you can check the archives of Designer Notes and hear a couple of very good game designers talk about some of the ideas they had over the course of developing this. Not that I want to suggest, I do feel I kind of want to be careful. Clearly games are made by more than two people. I mean, some, can be made by two, but there is a whole team. It's Daryl, I believe, is one of the leads on it right now, but there are a lot of very good people at Mohawk who are putting a lot of effort into continuing to make sure that this game is updated and interesting to play. So I do not want to just limit the kudos to two people, but certainly there's a very strong foundation, much like the foundation that Philip II left Alexander, that they are building on. Dale. I feel really bad about the names right now, but you can actually check out the Mohawk stream. All right, unfinished business. As the fighting between Macedonia and the Thracians continues, it is time for us to recognize now that the natural next step is to complete Macedonian dominance in the region. Once Macedonia controls all of Greece, we will invade Persia and punish them for their transgressions. Thracians stand between us and the Persian shores of the Euxine Sea. They are a potential ally of Persia. Thracian lands must be conquered. We are not barbarians and do not have to erase Thracians from existence, but they must be subjugated, and any possibility of Thracians threatening us has to be eliminated. we will control Thrace. So we need to capture Crinides and Eumalpius from the Thracians. Alexander's upbringing. Queen Consort Olympia spends a lot of time with her son, the young Prince Alexander. Olympias has always been cold towards you, but it is plain that she loves her son dearly. Rumor has it that Alexander rarely gets to hear any kind word spoken about you. But be that as it may, even at this young age, Alexander's showing signs of being a capable heir. The boy is strong-willed, never deterred by scrapes and bruises. He enjoys listening to the Iliad and is especially fascinated by the story of Chiron, the centaur tutoring Achilles. Your marriage to Queen Consort Olympias may yet prove to be much more significant than yet another political power move. I should take time to teach Alexander some lessons personally. So, Orders is a very tough... that is definitely a very bitter pill, but this is definitely worth it for us. So, all right. Let's make sure that we are getting the conquests done. Looks like we don't have enough to finish the job. It's a bit of a shame. You know what? Here's what we're going to do. I'm probably going to pay up for the extra orders in this case because I did open up another front. You are now known as Philip the Victorious, 50 legitimacy. All right, Philippi. We have our worker. I think we'll start with a rancher. Excuse me. Okay, we did build a worker. Farmer doesn't give me access to as much as I would want, although the thing is, there's not a whole lot of natural resources for me to take advantage of here, so... you know what? Okay, this is going to seem like a counterintuitive move. I'm going to start training some scouts because I have a feeling that I am going to regret not having scouts to see what's going on in the Athenian territory. New laws are available to adopt, so slavery is definitely good for output, which we kind of need, but it's a horrible institution and it does cause unhappiness. So we can bring in serfdom, more orders, costs us money, or colonies can buy tiles with money. I actually think serfdom for the extra orders might be worth it. Constitution decrees in the capital, extra science per urban specialist, but costs us, what did we call these again? Training. Or tyranny, we get extra training and better money, but lower civics. I am slightly more inclined towards Constitution. So I don't normally go for serfdom, but I am going to do that here. I'm also slightly inclined towards freedom. We'll see. We'll definitely do serfdom this time, though. Oh, this is surprising. I think I need my civics for sure. You know what? Sorry, we are going to do slavery. Okay. I don't want to get reckless with my orders, but I do also want to make sure that we are being productive. Oof. That maybe wasn't the smartest thing for me to do because I need sources of wood. I would like to move. I don't think I want to spend that much. So. We spent the turns training Alexander. This grate has potential for funny quotes taken out of context. Oh, yes. There was definitely some funny business with my wives that I'll have to leave that for the VOD, but yeah. There are definitely some emergent stories that come out. All right, reports of a tribal raid from Illyria encampment near Aigai. Oligarch Eurydice the judge has died. Oligarch Philotas of Larissa is now head of the Alduian family. Their opinion of you has gone from cautious to upset. That's not good. A humble request. Humble emissaries from the Athenian alliance kneel before the throne, unable to meet your searching eye. They have come to request for aid. Future generations of our people will remember your generosity. Please, we have no place to turn. I love the idea of the Athenians owing me a favor, but sadly we are in no position to give aid. Citizen defense. Eager citizens of Philippi come forward wishing to support the city's defenses. They have the will. All they need is the direction. Construct protective walls or conduct emergency training. We will create the walls. Funny business with my wife. With Macedonia having control of Philippi and Eumolpius, the Thracians can no longer meaningfully resist. Whether they choose to submit or continue futile fighting is of no greater importance. Macedonia has expanded and the road to Byzantium is now clear. One day, this area will be just the westmost region of Macedonia as we conquer Persia. That time is not now. We still need to secure our hold over Greece. Now we can focus on the south. We have seized Eumolpius, the settlement that has existed so long that nobody knows what culture founded it. When the despicable Persians first invaded Greece, they seized this whole region, and Eumolpius was Persian for the last 140 years. Odrysian kings of Thrace have ruled here. Their rule ends now. Sorry, I'm doing a terrible job of reading this. Eumolpius has everything it takes to one day be a great city, except a proper name. As a Macedonian city, it should not retain its barbarian name, and it is only fitting that the city be renamed after you. It could grow into one of the finest cities in Macedonia. With Macedonia having control of Philippi and Philippopolis, the Thracians can no longer meaningfully resist. Whether they choose to submit or continue fighting is of no great importance. Macedonia has expanded and the road to Byzantium is now clear. One day this area will just be okay. We can focus on the south, agree to a truce with the Thracians, or take their cities. I'm inclined to take their cities, but we'll see. Leading the next generation, Oligarch Philotas of Larissa meets with you to discuss court matters. As he has recently taken up the mantle of family head of the Alduians in wake of Eurydice the judge's death, he converses with you on various issues as you stroll through the palace garden until finally getting to the heart of the matter. My predecessor, Eurydice, wrote of you as a dear friend after her own heart. I came here to see for myself what sort of person you are. It was more than just politics. We were friends. Or you will find none more vocal in their support for the Alduian family. Conspiring. I will happily bribe my way to to a happy populace. Alright, we are definitely founding another city. Alright, let's deal with this. Okay, before I go too far, let's actually take some time and get my workers working. Military buildings would not be a terrible idea here, although again, it does take... Oh, that clearly isn't working. Okay, Garrison has its own sense. It does provide... But we don't have the stone for it. I can buy stone, incidentally, but... So I'm thinking maybe what I do instead... I will build the range here. This worker, I'm actually struggling to come up with a job for them right now. I guess they could put a lumber mill down here, but like it's more than one turn now, so... Promote King Philip the Victorious. Philip is you and the general of the Hypaspist. Horsebane, Swift, Tracker. Oh, man. Swift is pretty tempting, actually. I'm going to do Horsebane, though, because I do like being able to deliver on combat. Okay, this kind of pains me, but... Actually, you know what? We don't need to bring any more... Well, actually, we do need to bring some of the archers forward, so... Alright, Philippopolis needs a worker. Olynthes. I guess we'll give them a worker too. At some point I need to build a trireme to, or I guess it's a bireme in this case, to take Thassos Island. We could just do the peace treaty, but I need to get my people moving anyway, so... Kind of lucky they're ignoring the settler. Okay, so we've got the battle line. That gives us maces. Onager is kind of tempting because it's a good military unit. I think I'm going to go for that. Paid function. The citizens of Larissa trust in our justice and leadership. As a result, city leaders wish to strengthen the legal system and encourage more people to participate in the judicial process. They are considering the formulation of a mistrophoria, a paid function that provides jurors with a salary. Such a position would be costly, but it would make Larissa's court second to none. So we can establish the mistrophoria. It almost wipes out my treasury. But it does give us culture. Require mandatory jury service. Stay out of their legal system. Let's pay up. Hello, Nearly Logical. Our supporter Oligarch Philolatus of Larissa has come to us with valuable information. His agents in the Athenian Alliance have discovered a cache of unfinished maps that show the farthest reaches of the nation's borders. Oligarch Philolatus of Larissa will have the maps brought to the court, but getting spies out of the Athenian Alliance will not be easy. Ask for Thessaly to provide safe passage. That will ding my... That'll dig my reputation. Send an official Macedonian escort to the border. Best not to risk anything. No. I don't care if the Athenians ever get mad. All right. Let's see. So I do want to take this. I do want to take this area, but like I need to get passage for my settler first. So let's promote. Strike seems like a good option. Yeah. So that's just going to take out the. Horses, perfect range for these guys. I'm slightly mad that I used all those orders on that, but I kind of feel like I have to. Okay, we need to choose a governor. Python the Drunk. He's not the best, he's the best available. Cured is here. Good evening, System Talk. I hope you have a good stream. The managers are being tyrannical. Appropriate. So you can't stick around right now. I hope you get through this soon, Cured. I know you've been working really hard lately. Is this made by one of the people who... Yes, so Soren Johnson worked for Firaxis for a while. I believe he did AI... I'm not 100% sure on his responsibilities, but in terms of specific Forex connections, there is the... I think there's some AI and possibly design work on Civ 3. I definitely feel like he had expanded responsibilities for the expansions. There was an expansion for Civ 3, right? He was the lead on Civ 4, and I know a lot of people regard that as the best Civ. I'm pretty simple in terms of my taste. Usually my favorite is the newest. But Civ 4 is an excellent game. He also, probably lesser known, did the work on the kind of the strategic layer to Spore. And I believe he worked at Zynga for a while, which may explain the orders system. But yeah, definitely, there's definitely some history in terms of the the 4X genre. I kind of need to decide where I start the city and where I start the logging camps, because I don't necessarily need to preserve all of these woods. It's not like we really need that many more mines, but all right. I have no idea what to do with this place. We just don't have the stone to do anything interesting. I suppose it wouldn't hurt if I put down some more fields. But no, I think at this point, even if they're not ideal, I just need to put down some quarries. I don't know what to do with you. Okay. Let's see if I can do something more interesting with some of my units. Beautiful. So that's one we're definitely going to pay up for an action on. Trapezus. Alright, so we've got our worker. I don't think it would hurt for me to put down a treasury at this point. In fact, I think everybody's probably due for a treasury. Oh, that's no good. This is definitely really going to divide my attention. General Antigonius will never be the same again. His recent injuries crippled him. A fiery ride. All right, we are definitely going to do this. You have been invited to Pella to participate in its grand celebration honoring the goddess of the hunt. Riders will race along a treacherous pass in the dark of night, passing torches. This is the city's first such competition, and they would like you to attend as a guest of honor. Now, I believe this is the competition that is referred to in the opening of Plato's Republic. But let's read. So, if that wasn't clear what happened here, when you go into Old World, sometimes you'll see this little globe icon. Usually it's a Wikipedia page, but it's not always... it's not always going to be a Wikipedia page. There's sometimes other sources. But in this case, we will read... Bendis was a Thracian goddess associated with hunting and the moon. Worship of the goddess seems to have been introduced into Attica around 430 BC. Some writers identified Bendis and Attica with the goddess Artemis, but the Temple of Bendis at Piraeus, which was near the city, near the Temple of Artemis, clearly display that the two goddesses were distinct. She was a huntress like Artemis, but was often accompanied by dancing satyrs and maenads, as represented on 5th century red figure stemless a 5th century red figure stemless cup at Verona. The Greeks wrote of Bendis as one of the 7 daughters of Zeus who were turned into swans who would later reappear in human forms, driving a golden carriage and teaching crowds. Etymology. The deity's name, Bendis, is thought to derive from a Proto-Indo-European stem brend, meaning to bind, unite, combine. Worship. By a decree of the Oracle of Dodona, which required the Athenians to grant land for a shrine or temple, her cult was introduced into Attica by immigrant Thracian residents. And though Thracian and Athenian possessions remained separate, both cult and festival became so popular that in Plato's time, circa 429, 413 BC, its festivities were naturalized as an official ceremonial of the city-state called the Bendidia. Among the events were nighttime torch races on horseback mentioned in Plato's Republic, 328. You haven't heard that there is to be a torchlit race this evening on horseback in honor of the goddess? On horseback, said I. That is a new idea. They will carry torches and pass them along to one another as they race with the horses. Or how do you mean? That's the way of it, said Polemarchus. And besides, there's to be a night festival which will be worth seeing. In Piraeus, there was a temple of the goddess which was called the Bendidion. Red figure Skyphos, now at Tübingen University, seems to commemorate the arrival of the newly authorized cult. It shows Themis, representing traditional Athenian customs, and a booted and cloaked Bendis who wears a Thracian foxskin cap. Small marble votive stele in Bendis, found in Piraeus, pictured left, shows the goddess and her worshippers in bas-relief. The image shows that the Thracian goddess has been strongly influenced by Athenian conceptions of Artemis. Bendis wears a short chiton like Artemis, but with an Asiatic snug-sleeved undergarment. She's wrapped in an animal skin like Artemis and has a spear, but has a hooded Thracian mantle fastened with a brooch. She wears high boots. In the 4th century BC terracotta figurine, pictured right, she is similarly attired and once carried a wooden spear. Elsewhere in Greece, the cult of Bendis did not catch on. Just as in all other respects, the Athenians continue to be hospitable to things foreign, so also in their worship of the gods, for they worshipped so many of the foreign rites that they were ridiculed for it by comic writers, and among these were the Thracian and Frisian rites. Strabo, Geography, 1st century AD. The Frisian rites Strabo mentioned referred to the cult of Cybele that was also welcomed to Athens in the 5th century. And of course, Cybele is one of those referred to in Book of Hours in terms of Aricapan. Related deities. The Athenians may have blended the cult of Bendis with the equally Dionysiac Thracian revels of Cotys mentioned by Aeschylus and other ancient writers. Archaic female cult figures unearthed in Thrace, modern-day Bulgaria, have also been identified with Bendis. Bendida Peak on Trinity Peninsula in Antarctica is named after the goddess. Isn't it nice that Hades allowed Mohawk to use all of these ancient god names? All right. Seabat on Thunderhead, Puzur Asher on Phoenix, or Ildash on Frogface. The underdog of the race, but I wouldn't count him out. The best steed, but Puzur Asher control him. I hear he's been in especially fine form this year. Now let's go for the Puzur Asher on Phoenix. Your horse and rider have claimed victory in the grand celebration. It is time to claim your prize. I have always been lucky, and definitely something I needed for the treasury. All right, I'm gonna move this slightly so I can poke the bad guys. All right, let's see what we can do with the rest of the turn. A king's ransom. During the battle, the cowardly Thracian leader, King Chrysopolis, fled the battlefield, abandoning his wife and 2 daughters. Now in hiding, he appeals to us for mercy, hoping to buy back his imprisoned family. What, if any, mercy shall we show our enemy? The Battle of Issus. The Battle of Issus, and again, Book of Hours fans will be very familiar with this one. The Battle of Issus occurred in southern Anatolia on the 5th of November, 333 BC, between the Hellenic League, led by Alexander the Great, and the Achaemenid Empire, led by Darius III. It was the second great battle of Alexander's conquest of Asia, and his first encounter between Darius III and Alexander the Great. The battle resulted in the Macedonian troops defeating the Persian forces. After the Hellenic League soundly defeated the Persian satraps of Asia Minor, led by Greek mercenary Memnon of Rhodes at the Battle of Granicus, Darius took personal command of his army. He gathered reinforcements and proceeded to lead his men in a surprise march behind the Hellenic advance in order to cut off their line of supply. Alexander was forced to countermarch, and the stage was set for the battle near the mouth of the Panaris River at the town of Issus. The battle took place south of the ancient town Issus, which is close to the present-day Turkish town of Iskenderun, the Turkish equivalent of Alexandria, founded by Alexander to commemorate his victory, on either side of a small river called Panaris. At that location, the distance from the Gulf of Issus to the surrounding mountains is only 2.6 kilometers, 2 miles, a place where Darius could not take advantage of his superiority in numbers. Speculation on the location of the Panaris has taken place for over 80 years. Older historians believed it to be the Delhi Chai River, but historians N.G.L. Hammond and A.M. Devine claim that the Panaris is actually the Pius River, the latter using his own examination of the course of the river, which he considered would not have drastically changed since antiquity. Their evidence is based on Callisthenes' accounts of the measurements of the battlefield and the distances marched by both sides' armies in the prelude to battle and the distance given by Diodorus after the battle. Background. Alexander set out into Asia in 334 BC. I realize we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but this is still interesting history. Alexander set out into Asia in 334 BC and defeated the local Persian satraps at the Battle of Granchius. Hey, Ellen Ripley, very good to see you. He then proceeded to occupy most of Asia Minor with the idea of capturing all coastal settlements so as to negate the power of the vastly superior Persian fleet. He captured several important settlements, such as Miletus in 334 BC. If any of you are familiar with pre-Socratics, you might know that Miletus is a fairly significant city. And Halicarnassus, a siege lasting 4 months starting in late December in the same year. While Alexander was in Tarsus, he heard Darius massing a great army in Babylon. No problem, Tricky Bovis. I like this stuff. I actually think this stuff is interesting to read, and what I like is that it adds more to... like, obviously, it's nice to see the game going, and like I do enjoy trying to get better at Old World. But the thing is that there is so much more enjoyment you get out of the events when you understand the history behind them. Yeah, and it's... So, you know what? Okay, I'm going to take some time to talk about Old World, because this is actually a case where I don't think I was unfair in the criticism, but I maybe failed to appreciate how Old World was doing something different. So one really big thing for me, and apparently this publication is still coming out, but I actually spent some time writing an article for something that was due to be released on the Playdate. And it actually talks about the influence that Civilization had on the choice for me to study what I wound up studying. And it's an indirect path, but I think it's a very clear one to me in terms of just opening up the possibilities of not just reading, because I always loved reading, but a specific type of reading and following my curiosity and just basically showing me that the world is much bigger and more interesting than might have first appeared. So I don't want to like preempt the article or anything like that, but the main factors I'll say are that there's only so many times you can play a game and build the hoplite unit before you wonder what a hoplite is. And Civilization is perfectly set up in such a way that alongside the rules for the unit, there is a description of what that unit is in history. And that's all throughout Civilization. That's true to the, even the latest iterations of the game. And the thing is that between that and then Alpha Centauri and some of its choices in terms of the philosophers that it used for its quotes, these gave me sort of this trail of breadcrumbs for things that during a fairly significant visit to a library when I was sort of out on my own in Vancouver, this led me sort of down a path of studying a lot of these things independently. And one of the reasons why I value this a lot and why I like taking the time to do this is that I do have something of an unusual kind of career path. I didn't go to university straight out of school. In fact, my grades straight out of high school weren't that great, and it was because I knew I wanted to work in film. So if it was something about, English literature, I probably did very well. Video production obviously did very well, but mathematics, I got my C- and I got out of there. but you need to establish yourself. My first job in film was working at Starbucks. I worked very hard to try and break into film, and I worked as a camera assistant. But during that in-between time, right, I don't have a whole lot of money. My music player broke, and in order to avoid boredom on my commute, I, in sheer desperation, went to the library to get a book. And it was precisely the types of books and the types of things that I had become interested in because of Civilization that led me to pick the types of books that I did, right? So it was the first time that I read certain works of philosophy, and they ceased to be these really interesting quotes from Alpha Centauri, or they ceased to be these ideas in this game that I liked, and I found that they were very interesting in their own right, and then that just sort of fed into itself. So eventually, when I went into university, the original plan was to go for philosophy because I really enjoyed that, but then I discovered economics, and I had a whole bunch of other things that I had read to lead towards that. That has largely informed the way that I engage with ideas in general, is that it doesn't take a whole lot to get me interested in something. And so, as a result, after school, I worked as an economist until very recently. Now I'm an analyst now, so it's probably just a change in title more than anything. But, it's not a natural curve to sort of say, camera assistant with a C- in math to now doing a graduate degree in economics and becoming, good enough to at least be able to do, graduate from a good program. For those of you that don't know, econ is very math heavy. And then now something that maybe isn't directly related to economics, but is still kind of being informed by a lot of the things that I wound up reading. And so the reason why I take the time to talk about this is that, to me, like I said, it's hard to just sort of do the direct mapping, but the really important part for me is leaving a piece of information for a player so that at the right moment they can look a little bit closer and they can own that knowledge that they gain, right? That was something that, out of their own interest or their own passions, that they sought it out and kind of made it their own. And so I was originally a little disappointed when I looked in Old World and I saw the manual, and then when you go inside the manual you see all the stats, but there wasn't the history. And it was only until later that I realized this feature that you're complimenting the game on, and rightly so, that they provide you links to encyclopedia articles. Again, it's not always Wikipedia. It often is Wikipedia, but they do have some other sources as well. And to me, again, that's just another example of giving people something interesting. It is a good game to play that is fun, and then it gives you something a little bit extra, and maybe you'll pass over it the first 5 or 10 times, but one day you're going to want to find out, well, what's this business with Issus? Why somebody ransoming their family? And then that's where you read the article, and then you're lost. Then you become a nerd, I'm sorry to say. But, all right. But I did. You want to hear the article, so let's get on with it. Alexander set out to Asia in 334 BC and defeated the local Persian satraps at the Battle of Grancus. He then proceeded to occupy most of Asia Minor with the idea of capturing all coastal settlements so as to negate the power of the vastly superior. I know I read some of this before, but we'll just carry on. Superior Persian fleet. He captured several important settlements such as Miletus in 334 BC and Halicarnassus, a siege lasting 4 months, starting in late December the same year. While Alexander was in Tarsus, he had heard of Darius massing a great army in Babylon. If Darius were to reach the Gulf of Issus, he could use the support from the Persian fleet under Pharnabazus, still operating in the Mediterranean Sea, thus easing his supply and possibly landing troops behind the enemy. Alexander kept his main army at Tarsus, but sent Parmenion ahead to occupy the coast around Issus. In November, Alexander received reports that the great Persian army had advanced into Syria to a town named Sochoi, or possibly Sokoi. Alexander decided to mass his scattered army and advance south from Issus through the pass of Jonah. Darius knew that Parmenion held the pass of Jonah and thus chose a northern route of advance. The Persians captured Issus without opposition and cut off the hands of all the sick and wounded that Alexander had left behind. Now Darius found out he had placed his army behind the Hellenic League and had cut their supply lines. He then advanced to the south and got no further than the river Panaris before his scouts spotted Alexander marching north. Darius had set up camp on this narrow coastal plain. Motives. There's much to debate as to the motives of Alexander and Darius preceding Issus. One modern perspective, based on Curtius, is that Darius was forced to move camp to terrain that favored Alexander because Alexander was fighting defensively due to a recommendation by his war council and Parmenion. Darius's large army could not be supported in the field during winter, and his cities in Phoenicia were already in unrest at the arrival of Alexander. Darius was forced to move his large army to a small battlefield, greatly to the advantage of Alexander's smaller force. Alexander was waiting for Darius to come south around the Amanus mountain range because the pass Darius would have used, the Belen Pass, was much closer to Sokai and offered the quickest access to the area Alexander defended. Alexander was waiting 15 kilometers, 9.3 miles, to the west of the Belen Pass at Mirandius, to spring a trap on Darius as he crossed through the Belen Pass through the Pillar of Jonah if he moved north, where Darius's army would be disorganized and disjointed in the narrow crossing. Darius instead moved north from Sokai around the mountains through the Ammonic Gate or another nearby pass, emerging behind Alexander's position and on his supply and communication lines. Thus Alexander was forced to march to Darius, who had caught him off guard in a large flanking maneuver. This gives the illusion that Darius was the one acting defensively, since Alexander was forced to march to him. Combatants, the Persian army. Some ancient sources, Arrian and Plutarch. I actually, for those of you that also want to read some of the original sources, there is a pretty decent series called the Landmark Histories, which include sort of annotated translations as well as maps. I think I have the Arrian one. Let me just take a quick second here. Yes, it's a nice big red paperback. Sorry, I lost my headphones. Just give me a second here. I'm still sick. All right. Some ancient sources, Arrian and Plutarch, who based their accounts on earlier Greek sources, estimated 600,000 Persian soldiers in total, while Diodorus and Justin estimated 400,000, and Curtius Rufus estimated 250,000. No, that's cool, Tricky Bobus. I got kind of lucky in terms of the film side. Like, I wanted to work in camera, and I'm happy that I did it. I think I probably should have moved out a bit sooner than I actually did. But there is something about branding and marketing. Like, we were talking about rhetoric earlier, and I understand, like, I don't think anybody sort of sits down and says, like, their passion is for branding and marketing, but it is actually an area in which people have really sharpened their craft and has allowed them, on their own time to do greater things. I don't know if you aspire to writing on your own or if you enjoy the study of literature more than than composition, but I wouldn't put the tier below. I actually think there's something about branding and marketing that is very cool, and I think part of that comes from gaming, because a very large amount of the the stuff that I've been reading from game developers is very often how they find it difficult to get the word out about their games. And so to a certain extent, because I certainly don't understand how to sell myself, and because it seems that there are a very large number of people who put a great emphasis and weight on that particular set of skills, well, like I said, I don't know if anybody really wakes up and says, this is the thing that they dream about doing. I am actually quite interested in it, in the sense that it's this whole set of it's this whole discipline that so many people seem to assign a great value to, but have some difficulty sort of delivering on. You love writing. You kind of ended up in the field through copywriting because I knew it was a path that F. Scott Fitzgerald had taken. I haven't quite managed the dismount yet. Hey, I think that is probably a lifelong path. Another figure that I'm interested in, I don't think he's a great literary figure, but David Ogilvy, who I've been reading about in my The Secret History of, let me get the exact title. I believe Ogilvy actually did some writing for this, but the British Security Coordination, The Secret History of British Intelligence in the Americas, 1940 to 45. This is some straight up Assassin's Creed nonsense, by the way. But Ogilvy has, I think, quite a good... Ogilvy didn't write this, it was people who worked under him. But Writing That Works, I actually think, is a pretty decent book on writing. So there is definitely something about copywriters and being able to do some good writing. I mean, it makes sense, right? Because you need to sharpen your point to be able to to sell. But yeah, no, I also get it. This game is just an excuse for learning about the classical world. Hope you are well. I have not been... No worries, Irrepressible. And yes, this game is absolutely an excuse to learn about the classical world. God help us if they ever make a Middle Ages one, because then I'd actually have to learn something. Well, I still learn things when I read about the ancient world, but I'm much better versed in the ancient world than I am in the Middle Ages. Okay, modern historians find Arrian's count of 600,000 men highly unlikely. They argue that the logistics of fielding more than 100,000 soldiers in battle was extremely difficult at the time. Hans Delbruck gave an estimate as small as 25,000, although most, including Engels and Green, estimate the total size of Darius's army to be no larger than 100,000 at Issus, including 11,000 cavalry, 10,000 Persian immortals, and 10,000 Greek mercenaries, where he estimates 108,000 in total. The Hellenic army. The size of the Hellenic army may not have exceeded 40,000 men, including their other allies led by Alexander. Alexander's army may have consisted of about 24,000 heavy infantry, 9,000 phalangites, 3,000 hypapsists, and 7,000 allied and 5,000 mercenary Greek hoplites, 13,000 light infantry, palasts, archers, and slingers, and 5,850 cavalry. Perhaps I should take these numbers to work out the ratios of my own forces. Battle. The Greeks advanced through the Pillar of Jonah. Alexander led his companion cavalry on the right flank. By the way, Oswin, I always like your anecdotes about your film studies, so do feel free to break in with more of those whenever you want. It makes sense that the numbers are exaggerated, but then you look at the Romans sending tons of legions into battle all over the place, and it's not that much later. Ellen Ripley says, play life on hard mode, work in branding and marketing to developers and cybersecurity people. Any war stories to share with us? The Greeks advanced through the Pillar of Jonah. Alexander led his companion cavalry on the right flank, and he set his Thessalian allied cavalry on the left of the phalanx with Parmenion in command. Darius formed his line with his heavy cavalry concentrated next to the coast on his right, followed by the Greek mercenary phalanx. Historian A.M. Devine places them at a strength of 12,000, comparable to Alexander's Greek phalanx. Next to the Greek phalanx, Darius spread his Persian infantry, the Cardaces, along the river and into the foothills, where they wrapped around to the other bank and threatened Alexander's right flank. The formation resembled Gamma, the letter. Arrian gives an inflated figure of 20,000 to these troops. Darius positioned himself in the center with the Greek mercenaries, his royal cavalry guard, and his best infantry. According to some historians, like P. Stratocus, he was trying to replicate the Hellenic battle formation at the Battle of Granchius. The Persian cavalry first charged Parmenion and the allied cavalry, crossing the river to open battle. Alexander's right wing became the crux of the battle, as Gaugamela 2 years later, where Parmenion held the left wing long enough against superior Persian numbers for Alexander to make his calculated cavalry strike against Darius and break the Persian army. The infantry of the Greek left flank was commanded by the general Craterus, in a promotion from his position commanding a single brigade of good lord, Hateriori infantry at the Granchius. Things did not go well for the Macedonians in the beginning. Their center phalanx, having to advance across a river and set up a fortified bank, suffered severely against the Greek mercenaries waiting for them on the other side. Arrian noted that 120 Macedonians of note, probably meaning officers, were slain here, and the Macedonians were forced to retreat across the river. In the left flank, the Thessalians struggled against the outnumbering mass of Persian heavy horse that faced them, delivering charges and retreating again to buy time. Then the Hypapsists, led by Alexander on foot, delivered an assault on the Cardaces and managed to punch a hole through the Persian line. The Arrhaganians, too, drove back a mass of Persian skirmishers menacing Alexander's far right, securing the flank of the companions. Alexander then mounted a horse at the head of his companions and led a direct assault against Darius and his bodyguards, causing them to flee from the battlefield. Alexander then saw his left flank and center in trouble, and allowing Darius to flee, he crashed into the rear of the Greek mercenaries. The Greek mercenaries broke up and started retreating from the battlefield as well. The Persians saw that their great king had gone and that the battle was being lost, and they abandoned their positions and fled in full rout. The Hellenic cavalry pursued the fleeing Persians for as long as there was light. As with most ancient battles, significant carnage occurred after the battle as the pursuing Greeks slaughtered the crowded, disorganized foe. Arrian notes Ptolemy mentioning that while pursuing Darius, Alexander and his bodyguards came upon a ravine which they easily crossed upon the piled-up bodies of the dead Persians. It was a decisive victory for Alexander. Aftermath. The Battle of Issus was a decisive Hellenic victory, and it marked the beginning of the end of Persian power. It was the first time the Persian army had been defeated with the king, Darius III, at the time present. After the battle, the Hellenes captured Darius's wife, Sateria I, and his daughters, Sateria II and Drypeptus, and his mother, Sisygambis, all of whom had accompanied Darius on his campaign. Alexander, who later married Sateria II, treated the captured women with great respect. Later, the Spartan king Agis III recruited the Greek mercenary survivors of the Battle of Issus who had served in the Persian army, a force of 8,000 veterans, and used them in his fight against the Macedonians. In the summer of 331 BC, Agis defeated Choragus, the Macedonian general in command of the Peloponnese and the garrison of Corinth, but was finally defeated at the Battle of Megalopolis. All right, Ellen Ripley says, developers fall into two categories and marketed to by vendors, with most falling into the first bucket. They absolutely despise you and go out of the way to tell you that you suck or that they will die for you. Ellen Ripley says, I am on the other side of your transaction. Sorry for never answering the emails about if I am happy with my milestoning software or whatever. Getting into that second group takes a long time and it has a lot to go right. AppSec people just get constantly prospected, so they are always really cautious and difficult to win over. You have to work incredibly hard to get a smile and a nod at conferences. I don't blame you. I'm just a ghostwriter, so thankfully someone else is at the email coalface. This is why I like it when you all participate in chat. I learn more about the world. All right, so do we show mercy? His craven display was ransom enough. We get extra charisma. His family is the cost for cowardice. I become cruel, and I potentially could change the succession, or everyone has a price. I think I'm going to take the money. Okay. So I seem to recall trying to get a marriage from Thessaly. That kind of just seems to have not resulted in anything, so... What am I gonna do? I think I'm gonna keep building treasuries. Not doing anything with you. So I definitely don't hate the idea of building more farms. But I feel like I should be doing something a little more interesting with these areas right now. I think for these, I'm just going to build... the quarry would be better than the mine. Actually, why does it want... Oh, because of the... I mean, there's not a super argument for me to be putting the quarry here, but the fact of the matter is we need them, so... Yeah, we'll do that. Now, do I want to pay for... Paying for orders is not a terrible idea right now, so... here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to move... So I don't necessarily need another mine. And I am going to buy... just enough. This is so that I can get access to these, which will be good for both the wood and the stone. Kidnapping your future wife is one of those things that we tolerate 2,300 years ago, but if it was like 1800 CE, then the statues of Alexandria would be contentious. Vesper, we're working on it. Wasn't built in a day. Incidentally, we have got another streamer who I've been watching more of lately, Vesper Fortune TV, in the channel. Does a little bit of everything. Art streams, conversation about Christmas movies, but lately has been all about the cannibalism, I've noticed. Or is it cannibalism or just murder? You know what? I'm going to undo the purchase of orders. We'll just end the season. Now, it's possible that we don't have seafaring technology. It's actually probably likely, which means that I'm wasting my time trying to take over Thassos Island. Yeah, Oswin got to see a lot more of the Satanic Panic discussion that you did. All right, a tiny favor. Several officers of the Spartan military appear before the court with a message. Our mighty ruler, King Archidamus the Ambitious of Sparta, suggests that you share with us your most effective metalworking secrets. Sharing this knowledge will show your willingness to cooperate with us. Sparta can be trusted with our secrets. We get research in exchange for giving the macemen. Some knowledge is best kept to ourselves. Memnon of Rhodes, your court receives an unusual visitor, a Greek by the name of Memnon, hailing from Rhodes. He has long served the Persians in Phrygia. Around the time that you took the throne, the Frisian governor, whom Memnon served, attempted a coup against King Artaxerxes of Persia with Memnon as a general. The coup failed, and Memnon fled to Macedonia. During Memnon's visits, you spend some time discussing the military of Persia, its force composition, its usual strategy, the role of the regional satraps in the defense of Persia. You're very pleased to see that young Alexander also takes an interest in the conversation and asks astute questions, displaying a much greater understanding of military matters than a child would be expected to have. Memnon talks to Alexander as an equal, and you leave them both alone for a while. You do not doubt that Alexander will learn much about Persia, where you expect him to accompany you one day. Who knows, maybe we will one day meet Memnon in Persia. Bringing Aristotle, Prince Alexander keeps showing promise as he is growing up. His love of the Iliad led to Alexander preferring games where he pretends to be Achilles, the legendary warrior, much to the delight of his mother Olympias, who claims Achilles as her ancestor. It is now time to put more thought into Alexander's future. If he is to succeed you one day, he needs the best tutors there are. Fate has presented us with a unique opportunity. Aristotle the Younger, a great thinker and the most brilliant student of Plato, has recently left the academy in Athens after 2 decades of studying under Plato. Aristotle has a wealth of knowledge and ideas on every possible subject. He has agreed to join our court and to tutor Alexander. Alexander will learn a lot from Aristotle. Okay, let's... So I still haven't decided between tyranny and constitution. I think I'm going to go for constitution. We'll buy off the Chaonians with olives. Also, for some reason, I forgot to repair the walls. Okay, Pella. We finished a settler. But I feel like we need to put a little bit more into our work now. So let's make a stone cutter. You are now known as Philip the Lion, 60 legitimacy. Keep throwing rocks at these people. Oh, actually. Yeah, we need both. Okay. Alright, so I think because we don't have boats, let's see if we can work out a truce here. And we're still short on cash, so... But the thing is, this is also my source of wood, so... Larissa... Yeah, we'll make a maceman. Okay, we'll definitely skip this one. These guys should still be... We should still be moving everybody to settle these regions. I don't even know what I want to do with these guys now. Same story, actually. Okay, these guys stay put. Maybe. I do need to get more lumber, so... I know everybody was really wanting me to say I need to get wood, but... I'll make a maceman out of you. Oligarch Lanik the Younger is suffering from a high fever and constant shaking, leaving her barely able to walk. Another marriage. You have married multiple women and advanced your political goals through the marriages. All of your wives are, however, from other parts of Greece, without any Macedonian women being intimate with you. This has caused certain political difficulties for you, and there is great pressure from some courtiers for you to strengthen the Argead dynasty with children of pure Macedonian descent. Attalus the Commander, a skilled strategos, offers the hand of his niece, Eurydice the Commander. The marriage is sure to upset Olympias, but it is too good an opportunity to turn down. Taking Eurydice as your wife will placate those worried about the Macedonian bloodlines and will forge a stronger alliance with Attalus, who will become one of your most loyal generals. I even impressed myself with the political success of this marriage. Lessons of Aristotle. Alexander has always been partial to Homer's Iliad, a work that Aristotle has studied extensively. The young man and his tutor have spent many evenings discussing the epic story, which Alexander sees as a guide to military excellence. Aristotle has expanded on those views, showing Alexander can also teach the arts of negotiation, diplomacy, and politics. They have lately taken to studying from Aristotle's own annotated copy of the Iliad, something that Aristotle promises to one day gift to Alexander. That is the power of classics. Everyone can learn from them. All right. Exotic influence and an act of supplication. The surviving Illyrian nobles offer you a wealth of jewelry, fineries, and icons representing their culture. As conqueror, you are expected to wear this traditional raiment. Our generals grumble behind your back, but there is wisdom in appealing to the newly vanquished. I will not be tainted by these savages. That will get us some legitimacy. These prizes are mine by right and rule. Can I become exotic, or put these treasures in our nation's coffers? Illyria is already pissed off, so let's get the money. Oedipus Tyrannus. The Odeon of Dionysus and Pella is showing the poetics of Sophocles and has a play called Oedipus. Shall we put on our own adaptation in Corcyra? Let us learn about Oedipus Rex. Oedipus Rex, also known by its Greek title Oedipus Tyrannus, or Oedipus the King, is an Athenian tragedy by Sophocles that was first performed around 429 BC. Originally, to the ancient Greeks, the title was simply Oedipus, as it is referred to by Aristotle in the Poetics. It is thought to have been renamed Oedipus Tyrannus to distinguish it from Oedipus at Colonus, a later play by Sophocles. In antiquity, the term tyrant referred to a ruler with no legitimate claim to rule, but did not necessarily have a negative connotation. Of Sophocles' 3 Theban plays that have survived and that deal with the story of Oedipus, Oedipus Rex was the second to be written, followed by Antigone by about a dozen years. However, in terms of the chronology of the events depicted in the plays, it comes first, followed by Oedipus at Colonus and then Antigone. Prior to the start of Oedipus Rex, Oedipus has become the king of Thebes while unwittingly fulfilling a prophecy that he would kill his father Laius, the previous king, and marry his mother Jocasta, who Oedipus took as queen after solving the riddle of the Sphinx. It's the dream, right? The action of Sophocles' play concerns Oedipus' search for the murderer of Laius in order to end a plague ravaging Thebes, unaware that the killer he is looking for is none other than himself. At the end of the play, after the truth finally comes to light, Jocasta hangs herself while Oedipus, horrified at his patricide and incest, proceeds to gouge out his own eyes in despair. In Poetics, Aristotle refers several times to the play in order to exemplify the aspects of the genre. Context: Curse upon Laius. The misfortunes of Thebes are believed to be the result of a curse laid upon Laius for the time he had violated the sacred laws of hospitality. In his youth, Laius was taken as a guest by Pelops, the king of Elis, where he would become tutor to the king's youngest son, Chrysippus, in chariot racing. Apollo, the protector of youth and boys, cursed him for raping Pelops' son. Chrysippus committed suicide. The birth of Oedipus. When Laius' son is born, he consults an oracle as to his fortune. To his horror, the oracle reveals that Laius is doomed to perish by the hand of his own son. Laius binds the infant's feet together with a pin and orders Jocasta to kill him. Unable to do so to her own son, Jocasta orders a servant to expose the infant on a mountaintop. The servant, moved by pity, gives the child to a shepherd who unbinds the infant's ankles and names him Oedipus, Swollenfoot. The shepherd brings the infant to Corinth and presents him to the childless king Polybus, who raises Oedipus as his own son. Oedipus and the Oracle. As he grows to manhood, Oedipus hears a rumor that he is not truly the son of Polybus and his wife Merope. He asks the Delphic oracle who his parents really are. The oracle seems to ignore this question, telling him instead that he is destined to mate with his own mother and shed with his own hands the blood of his own sire. Desperate to avoid this terrible fate, Oedipus, who still believes that Polybus and Merope are his true parents, leaves Corinth for the city of Thebes. Fulfilling prophecy. The old man. On the road to Thebes, Oedipus encounters an old man and his servants. The two begin to quarrel over whose chariot has the right of way. While the old man moves to strike the insolent youth with his scepter, Oedipus throws the man down from his chariot, killing him. Thus the prophecy in which Oedipus slays his own father is fulfilled, as the old man, as Oedipus discovers later, was Laius, king of Thebes and the true father to Oedipus. The riddle of the Sphinx. Arriving at Thebes, a city in turmoil, Oedipus encounters the Sphinx, a legendary beast with the head and breasts of a woman, the body of a lioness, and the wings of an eagle. The Sphinx, perched on a hill, was devouring Thebans and travelers one by one if they could not solve her riddle. The riddle in this formulation is apparently, where are my pants? The precise riddle asked by the Sphinx varied in early traditions and is not explicitly stated in Oedipus Rex, as the event precedes the play. However, according to the most widely regarded version of the riddle, the Sphinx asks, "What is the creature that walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs at noon, and 3 in the evening?" Oedipus, blessed with great intelligence, answers correctly, "Man, who crawls on all 4s as an infant, walks upright in maturity, and leans on a stick in old age." Bested by the prince, the Sphinx throws herself from a cliff, thereby ending the curse. Oedipus's reward for freeing Thebes from the Sphinx is kingship of the city and his hand of the dowager queen Jocasta. None at this point realize that Jocasta is Oedipus's true mother. Thus, unbeknownst to either character, the remaining prophecy has been fulfilled. The plot. Oedipus, king of Thebes, sends his brother-in-law, Creon, to ask the advice of the oracle at Delphi concerning the plague ravaging Thebes. Creon returns to report that the plague is the result of religious pollution, since the murderer of their former king, Laius, has never been caught. Oedipus vows to find the murderer and curses him for causing the plague. Oedipus summons the blind prophet Triasis for help. Triasis admits to knowing the answers to Oedipus's questions, but refuses to speak, instead telling Oedipus to abandon his search. Angered by the seer's reply, Oedipus accuses him of complicity in Laius's murder. The offended Triasis then reveals to the king that you yourself are the criminal you seek. Oedipus does not understand how this could be and supposes that Creon must have paid Triasis to accuse him. The two argue vehemently as Oedipus mocks Triasis' lack of sight, and Triasis retorts that Oedipus himself is blind. Eventually, the prophet leaves, muttering darkly that when the murderer is discovered, he shall be a native of Thebes, brother and father to his own children, and son and husband to his own mother. Creon arrives to face Oedipus's accusations. The king demands that Creon be executed. However, the chorus persuades him to let Creon live. Jocasta, wife of the first of Laius and then of Oedipus, enters and attempts to comfort Oedipus, telling him that he should take no notice of prophets. As proof, she recounts an incident in which she and Laius received it. I completely forget how this works out. There is a really, really good comedy that you can make out of this ordering. As proof, she recounts an incident in which she and Laius received an oracle which never came true. The prophecy stated that Laius would... I'm sorry, it's actually really hard not to giggle during this. The prophecy stated that Laius would be killed by his own son. Instead, Laius was killed by bandits at a fork in the road. The mention of the place causes Oedipus to pause and ask for more details. Jocasta specifies the branch to Dallas on the way to Delphi, recalling Tiresias' words. He asks Jocasta to describe Laius. The king then sends for a shepherd, the only surviving witness of the attack, to be brought from his fields to the palace. Confused, Jocasta asks Oedipus what the matter is, and he tells her. Many years ago, at a banquet in Corinth, a man drunkenly accused Oedipus of not being his father's son. Oedipus went to Delphi and asked the oracle about his parentage. Instead of answering his question directly, the oracle prophesied that he would one day murder his father and sleep with his mother. Upon hearing this, Oedipus resolved never to return to Corinth. In his travels, he came to the very crossroads where Laius had been killed and encountered a carriage that attempted to drive him off the road. An argument ensued, and Oedipus killed the travelers, including a man who matched Jocasta's description of Laius. However, Oedipus holds out hope that he was not Laius' killer, because Laius was said to have been murdered by several robbers. If the shepherd confirms that Laius was attacked by many men, then Oedipus is in the clear. A man arrives from Corinth with a message that Polybus, who raised Oedipus as his son, has died. To the surprise of the messenger, Oedipus is overjoyed because he can no longer kill his father, thus disproving half of the oracle's prophecy. However, he still fears that he might somehow commit incest with his mother. What, he just trips one day while she's clean? Sorry. Eager to set the king's mind at ease, the messenger tells him not to worry because Merope is not his real mother. That is not the reassuring line here. It's like, don't worry, she's not even your real mother. The messenger explains that years earlier, while tending his flock at Mount Cytharion, a shepherd from the household of Laius brought him an infant that he was instructed to dispose of. The messenger had then given the child to Polybus, who raised him. Oedipus asks the chorus if anyone knows the identity of the other shepherd, or where he might be now. They respond that he is the same shepherd who witnessed the murder of Laius, and whom Oedipus had already sent for. Jocasta, realizing the truth, desperately begs Oedipus to stop asking questions. When Oedipus refuses, the queen runs into the palace. When the shepherd arrives, Oedipus questions him, but he begs to be allowed to leave without answering further. However, Oedipus presses him, finally threatening him with torture or execution. It emerges that the child he gave away was Laius' own son. In fear of a prophecy that the child would kill his father, Jocasta gave her son to the shepherd in order to be exposed upon the mountainside. Everything, is at last revealed, and Oedipus curses himself and fate before leaving the stage. The chorus laments how even a great man can be felled by fate, and following this, a servant exits the palace to speak of what has happened inside. Jocasta has hanged herself in her bedchamber. Entering the palace in anguish, Oedipus called on his servants to bring him a sword, that he might slay Jocasta with his own hand, but upon discovering the lifeless queen, Oedipus took her down, and removing the long gold pins from her dress, he gouged out his own eyes in despair. The blinded king now exits the palace. He begs to be exiled. Creon enters, saying that Oedipus shall be taken into the house until oracles can be consulted regarding what is best to be done. Oedipus's 2 daughters and half-sisters, Antigone and Ismene, are sent out, and Oedipus laments their having been born to such a cursed family. He begs Creon to watch over them in hopes that they will live where there is opportunity for them and to have a better life than their father. Creon agrees before sending Oedipus back into the palace. On an empty stage, the chorus repeats the common Greek maxim that no man should be considered fortunate until he is dead. Don't you just feel great after hearing all that? Does anybody know what happens to Antigone, out of curiosity? Because it doesn't get any better. I actually remember, for those of you, if you have not read these, my favorite translation by far is Robert Fagel's. And in fact, Robert Fagels has done a translation of the Iliad and the Odyssey. I do know that there is a new translation of the Iliad out, which I have not read. Buried Alive, Ellen Ripley. By Creon. But I remember, again, this is one of these fated library trips. I remember reading Oedipus at Colonus, and that thing just rocked me to the core when I was reading that on the SkyTrade. I needed a moment to get myself together. So for those of you that like it, Penguin Classics usually publishes these, and the thing is that they're like, it's a super liquid market. Like there's like a billion of those things running around. So like there's different Penguin editions. So like there's like Richmond Lattimore's Iliad and stuff like that. You kind of need to make sure that you're looking at the right translations in that. But if you want, the Theban plays are translated by Robert Fagels. They're very good translations. And you know, if you really like, especially on the weekend, like you're all getting ready for a party, and like, you know, you're like at that point where you're drinking before the party, like what you really need to do is you just need to like bust out Oedipus Tyrannus, and like you will put everyone in the party mood. Incidentally, the translation of the Iliad, which of course has its ties to Alexander, has a beautiful introduction by Bernard Knox. On its own, like that Penguin edition is almost just worth it for that really amazing introduction that Knox writes. But that's another thumbs up for the Fagels translations, in my view. Relationship with the mythic tradition. The 2 cities of Troy and Thebes were the major focus of Greek epic poetry. The events surrounding the Trojan War were chronicled in the epic cycle, of which much remains, and those about Thebes in the Theban cycle, which have been lost. The Theban cycle recounted the sequence of tragedies that befell the house of Laius, of which the story of Oedipus is a part. Homer's Odyssey contains the earliest account of the Oedipus myth, which when Odysseus encounters Jocasta in the underworld. Homer briefly summarizes the story of Oedipus, including the incest, patricide, and Jocasta's subsequent suicide. However, in the Homeric version, Oedipus remains king of Thebes after the revelation and neither blinds himself nor is sent into exile. In particular, it is said that the gods made the matter of his paternity known, whilst in Oedipus the King, Oedipus very much discovers the truth himself. In 467 BC, Sophocles' fellow tragedian Aeschylus won first prize at the city Dionysia with a trilogy about the house of Laius, comprising Laius, Oedipus, and Seven Against Thebes, the only play which survives. Since he did not write connected trilogies as Aeschylus did, Oedipus Rex focuses on the titular character while hinting at the larger myth obliquely, which was already known to the audience in Athens at the time. Reception. The trilogy containing Oedipus Rex took second prize in the city Dionysia at its original performance. Aeschylus' nephew, Philocles, took the first prize at that competition. However, in his Poetics, Aristotle considered Oedipus Rex to be the tragedy which best matched his prescription for how drama should be made. Many modern critics agree with Aristotle on the quality of Oedipus Rex, even if they don't always agree on the reasons. For example, Richard Claverhouse-Jebb claims that Oedipus Tyrannus is in one sense the masterpiece of Attic tragedy. No other shows an equal degree of art in the development of the plot, and this excellence depends on the powerful and subtle drawing of the characters. Cedric Whitman noted that the Oedipus Rex passes almost universally for the greatest extant Greek play. Whitnam himself regarded the play as the fullest expression of the conception of tragedy, that the conception of tragedy as a revelation of the evil lot of man, where a man may have all the equipment for glory and honor, but still have the greatest effort to do good, and in the evil of an unbearable self for which one is not responsible. Edith Hall referred to Oedipus the King as this definitive tragedy, and notes that the magisterial subtlety of Sophocles' characterization thus lend credibility to the breathtaking coincidences, and notes the irony that Oedipus can only fulfill his exceptional God-ordained destiny because Oedipus is a preeminently capable and intelligent human being. HDF Kittos said about Oedipus Rex that it is true to say that the perfection of its form implies a world order, although Kitto notes that whether or not that world order is beneficent, Sophocles does not say. The science revolution attributed to Thales began gaining political force, and this play offered a warning to new thinkers. Kitto interprets the play as Sophocles' retort to the sophists by dramatizing a situation in which humans face undeserved suffering through no fault of their own. But despite the apparent randomness of the events, the fact that they may have been prophesied by the gods implies that the events are not random, despite the reasons being beyond human comprehension. Through the play, according to Kitto, Sophocles declares that it is wrong in the face of the incomprehensible and unmoral to deny the moral laws and accept chaos. What is right is to recognize facts and not delude ourselves. The universe is a unity. If sometimes we can see neither rhyme nor reason in it, we should not suppose it is random. There is so much that we cannot know and cannot control that we should not think and behave as if we do know and can control. Oedipus Rex is widely regarded as one of the greatest plays, stories, and tragedies ever written. In 2015, The Guardian's theater critic Michael Billington selected what he thinks are 101 greatest plays ever written. Oedipus Rex was placed second, just after The Persians, which I think is Aeschylus. No, Euripides. No, it is Aeschylus, my bad. I'm not going to talk about it today, but at some point we do need to talk about the frogs. The Odeon of Dionysus and Pella is showing the poetics of Sophocles and his play called Oedipus. Shall we put on our own adaptation in Corcyra? Let's not show plays about sons killing their fathers. Wisdom +1. Or show it, but let's stick to Homer's version of the Odyssey. Let's not show plays about sons killing their fathers. I like that response a lot. All right. I can't heal? Oh no, we're on cooldown, that's why. Okay, probably we're going to spend most of our moves trying to move the units. I figure I'll get like the upgrades and all of that out of the way. I can't remember if there's an adjacency bonus for... That doesn't hurt. I can even build a garrison. Look at that. This is not the right place for the garrison, though. For those of you thinking of picking up this game, I do just want to highlight that not only does this game have a very beautiful soundtrack, but you are listening to a very small subset of it, because there are a number of songs which have basically the rights holders fairly aggressively enforce their rights, which is fine. Like, that's the way it should be. But with that in mind, you are not hearing the whole thing, and it's great stuff. So, just FYI. Allies of convenience. Jilted by your recent slights, Queen Consort Olympias has begun appearing in court and opening allying with Queen Consort Ordata the Illyrian, one of your greatest critics. The two seem to be forging a political alliance. If allowed to blossom, an alliance between Olympias and Ordata could be disastrous. Queen Consort Olympias is jealous about King Philip the Lion. Accuse the two of plotting in court. Olympias is no longer jealous but becomes suspicious. Win her back with promises of affection. I'm neither... Oh, man. I think I'm actually going to say let the relationship develop as it will for discipline. Nothing to discuss. The Thracians recognize Macedonia as a rapidly rising power in the region and understand that any truce would just be to our benefit. Thus our envoys are peacefully but very firmly turned away from Thracian lands. It seems there is no more prospect of us reaching any deal with the Thracians. There is only one other way to resolve the conflict. Alright, so that slows us down, but we will manage. It does at least allow me to work on other conquests. Let's just make sure the workers are not idle. All right, also, let's get some healing in. So I feel like there should be a contingent that's kept at Thassos. Like, it doesn't have to be a big one, but... Actually, you know what? We'll have 2 people sitting here already, so maybe we just run ahead. Nope, there's the scout. Okay, I don't think I'm going to go for any more settlers right now. I think we actually need to start delivering on... Well, the first thing we need to do actually is load up here. But I do think we need... Well, 2 things. One, we're going to build a treasury, because our own treasury is looking a bit light. But then we actually do need to start building some things that will help against the Athenian alliance, because that war is coming at some point. We also just need to, like, when I take a look at my numbers, I need to get, like, a lot of lumber mills down really, really fast, because that is going to be how I make an unstoppable army. Alright, Nicomedia, we finished the scout, which is good, but it's not clear what my next step should be. You know what? Moving to settlers here would not be a bad idea. Although maybe I'll do a quick treasury on this one too, just so I can secure my cash flows. I was, that's entirely on me for exposing this unit like this. I wanted to go sort of the far right, but then I said, the recommended move wouldn't lead me astray, would it? Alright, what are we going to do with this? I don't want to leave my territory completely undefended. We've got a settler on the way here, and then we have... Okay, I'm not building any more settlers in Pella. I will build another stone cutter. I kind of want to set up quarries in every region that I have at this point. Right, there's a reason why I put a mine here, because we're going to add the quarries later. This one we're actually going to have to wait for. Now this one isn't so bad, because there's actually going to be two things that we can do here. One, we clear the scrub, and then two, we can build the quarries. Okay, for these folks, I don't want to overcommit to Illyria. I think actually what we probably want to do is start moving on Thessaly. All right. This wasn't exactly how I was planning on doing it, but I'm just going to build a settler so we can clear things out here. Trapezus, let's get the stone cutter. Yeah, this is going to get a little awkward for a bit. Because I need to, so like I do want to be investing in my armies, but I need to get the wood production up, metal as well. But like wood and metal are two major focuses right now. So again, that will probably mean that I spend some more time on those things. But I'll live with it, right? Like I'll make it happen. I just need to make sure that I keep focused. Workers in one of the capital's quarries have excavated the bones of a gargantuan beast. They have abandoned the site spooked. Work is halted, and the quarry foreman is not sure how to proceed. Make an example of the older slaves until the rest return. That gives us a ton of stone, and we become cruel. Sacrifice food to the gods as in an appeal for safety. Or give the bones to our wise men to study. Fun, and I kind of want to do that for the science, but in this case I will sacrifice food to the gods because we have so much food. The heart of Greece, the time has come to openly recognize the inevitable. Macedonia will have to fight Athens and their allies, or else Macedonia will go down in history as yet another short-lived political entity. The Athenian alliance has steadfastly kept denouncing us and does not see our people as more than the periphery of Greece. They will not change their minds peacefully. For the people of Attica and Boeotia to recognize Macedonia, the ruler of as the ruler of Greece, you'll have to personally walk through the Cadmea in Thebes and ascend the stairs to the temple of Apollo in Delphi. With our weapons and your command, the Athenians will be brought to heel. They'll be happy to end their dominance, capture 4 cities from Athens and their allies. So much to do. Let's found another city. Syracuse. And we'll do the usual worker, and we'll figure out the rest later. Thessalonica. We've built a treasury. Apparently we're still poor. Corcyra. I think eventually it's going to be for the woods, but probably not now. Against my better judgment, I will put down a treasury. Okay, this is going to get a little awkward, but we need to push the Illyrians back. Just stop being poor. Alright. Let's go Besieger. Now again, we only need to take 2 cities off of Illyria. You have to be idle again, sadly. Everything needs stone! Alright. I think the focus now has got to be on moving these units up. And we've got spare training, so in this case I am actually going to pay up to move some of the others. What do we have here? We've got an idle scout, so let's actually see what we're up against with the Athenians. Oh. We are screwed. We're not going to be able to hide him anywhere. Governor Python the Drunk is feeling ill, lightheaded, and weak. Oligar Lanike the Younger, governor of Pella, has died in office. Ambassador Simon the Diplomat is now head of the Argian family. Simon the Athenian, Simon the Foreigner, a member of the Athenian court, arrives with a special request. He wishes to remain in Aigai as a foreign ambassador, living among our people while supporting the cause for his fellow Athenians abroad. Granting such a position to a foreigner, including a palatial home and court access, may anger some of the citizens of Aigai, but would certainly bolster relations with the Athenian alliance. It would be wise, refuse, or welcome him warmly and appoint him to a court position. I do like the idea of getting an extra minister. Proxeny. Proxeny, or proxenia, was an arrangement whereby a citizen chosen by the city hosted foreign ambassadors at his own expense in return for honorary titles from the state. The citizen, called the proxenos, or proxenios, the proxeny decrees, which amount to letters patent and resolutions of appreciation, were issued by one state to a citizen of another for service such as proxenos, a kind of honorary consul looking after the interests of the other state's citizens. A common phrase is Euergetes, benefactor, and proxenos. Proxenos would use whatever influence he had in his own city to promote policies or friendship or alliance with the city he voluntarily represented. For example, Simon was Sparta's proxenos at Athens, and during his period of prominence in Athenian politics, previous to the outbreak of the First Peloponnesian War, he strongly advocated a policy of cooperation between the two states. Simon was known to be so fond of Sparta that he named one of his sons Lacedaemonius, as Sparta was known as Lacedaemon in antiquity. Being in other cities, proxenos did not preclude taking part in war against that city should it break out, since the proxenos' ultimate loyalty was to his own city. However, proxenos would naturally try his best to prevent such a war to resolve the differences that were threatening to cause it. And once peace negotiations were on the way, a proxenos' contacts and goodwill in the enemy city could very profitably be used by a city. The position of proxenos for a particular city was often hereditary in a particular family. A 2024 study in the Journal of Economic History linked the presence of proxeny arrangements to increases in trade flows. And trade flows are how you just stop being poor. So I'm not exactly looking to be friends with the Athenian alliance, but I do like the idea of getting a free minister. A popular board game. A new game has become popular in Thessaloniki. The people call the game Petia, and have come to consider it a test of wits and strategy. Two players face off on a rectangular board. One controls white pieces and the other black. Players attempt to surround the opponent's pieces to capture them, and ultimately leave their opponent just with no moves to make. Petia players say that the struggle in this game is just like watching opposing phalanxes face off on a battlefield. So we can encourage it as a pastime in Thessaloniki, or it is a game fit for the aristocracy. Nope, let everyone play. Aristotle has over the years developed a robust system for reasoning. The details are too complicated for Alexander for now, but Aristotle gladly introduces him to the basics. The world, Aristotle says, is composed of substances, which can be described by properties. There exist 10 different categories, or ways to describe something. These descriptions can then form propositions, sentences asserting something, and each proposition can be true or false. Propositions can themselves be of 4 categories, such as a universal affirmation, all Greeks are people, or a particular affirmation, some horses are dark. Mastering the various categories of propositions allows us to formulate syllogisms, in which certain propositions necessarily lead to the conclusion of something else being true. Aristotle calls this method deduction and proposes it as a reliable way of discovering new knowledge. That's even more confusing than the lesson on Zeno's paradoxes. Death of a governor. Oligarch Lanki the Younger, governor of Pella, has died in office. We can put Simon in place, I think. That or Aristotle. I think we'll put Simon. Actually, Simon would be a good general. Okay, let's work with the idle workers first. And at this point, I think it's every lumber mill we can possibly build. What do I do with you? I'm intrigued by the fact that it wants me to build a quarry here. I don't hate it as an option, so let's go for it. I may regret that, but... Okay, so I think at this point I'm moving all my military units. Alright, what do we do with you? Probably woodcutter. Wow, I actually really need to get on these... treasuries. But yeah, we'll go for the woodcutters because we need them. I'm trying to think if there is a... So a short option is honestly my favorite here. Yeah, we'll go for another stonecutter. Queen Consort Olympias has been feeling quite poor lately and is now ill. Have a lovely evening, Osmond Meow. It's always very good to see you, and hope to see you soon. Free Ebony. It's only one season, so I kind of get another... I do get another draw. The real question here is, do I have a realistic chance of getting... a Byreme, because that's the only way that we're actually going to be able to finish our battles. Okay, so we already do have navigation. Interesting. So I'm going to go for the Free Court Soldier in this case, just because I need more generals. A trade-off. The Athenian ambassador waits patiently for your reply, watching in quiet bemusement as the leaders of the Argiads and Chaonians shout over each other to be heard. The proposed offer is that the Athenian alliance would like to exchange technologies as a sign of friendship. However, they have asked to learn about our military advancements in return for their own economic knowledge. The Chaonian family argue that the economic benefits would greatly help our nation, while the Argiads warn of the dangers in arming the Athenian alliance with a more advanced military. The Argiad are right, we must be cautious. Okay, before I go... Well, no, hang on. We want to do the worker thing. Stone. I'll settle for another mine just because I'm short on options, but... Okay, 3 more turns of waiting with this guy. Alright, that's the workers spoken for. Among the Illyrian prisoners, our units discover a boy who claims to be the son of the Thessalian king. He relates a harrowing tale in which he was kidnapped by Illyrian royalty and held hostage. What shall we do with the boy? We can return the boy to Thessaly. He's too valuable. I will raise the boy as my own. The child will be raised as a political prisoner in our court, or the child is simply another prisoner. Returning to Thessaly. We're going to invade Thessaly in a little bit, so I'm not exactly looking to keep the relations positive, but there's no point in being mean for the sake of mean. Okay, that's the treasury spoken for. I guess at this point we just start churning out units, although clearly I'm going to need to get my training up if I actually want to see any real progress here. All right, 4 orders to work with. The more I look at this, the more I see that I'm going to be needing archers, so... Options in Illyria. Macedonia has settled large parts of Illyria, and for the foreseeable future there could be no more threat from the entirety of Illyria. Their armies have been depleted along with the will to fight Macedonia, for it is plain that you are much more capable of a ruler than your father was. Macedonia can continue its northwestern expansion if you wish so, eliminating Illyria entirely. Further expansion in that direction is not a necessity, but there is enough land and resources in the area to make it worth considering. I will consider whether that is of interest, in the interest of Macedonia. I don't mind the idea of eliminating the Illyrians. This is the most valuable prize by far. In fact, even this would get me some stone, so I'm thinking we will continue to push the issue. All right, treasury's done. Let's say... more treasury. They're building quarries too fast. All right. 1 more day and then we're good. 2 more days, we're good for you. Honestly, at this point, I think we might as well just march on the remainder. I really do want to move that scout, but again, we just don't have the orders to do everything we want. Okay. Again, fights with Thessaly are pretty much inevitable. Although they are looking pretty strong. So it's all well and good for me to want to sweep in like this, but they're gonna hit us hard in Larissa. Have a little war just as a treat. Oh, here's what I'm gonna do. Let's assign some generals before I get too worked up. Okay, so most of my units actually have generals now, which is nice. Not crazy about what that does to growth, but it's probably better to have a governor than not. All right. Getting a bit of a traffic jam here. It'll have to do. So this isn't a worry, right? We're specifically designed to take out cavalry units like this. Immigrants, a rabble of barbarian refugees, has settled outside the gates of Dodona. They request our aid and sanctuary. What shall we tell them? Employ them as scouts, or... Oh, man. Scouts would be helpful, but let's let them settle. All right, again, we'll put the workers to work. We're starting to see the wood number go up, which is exactly what we want. We're one season away from that worker doing what we need, and now we can open a whole bunch of quarries here. For you, Philippopoulos... Okay, well, we know for sure one of these. Okay. I'm starting to get happy. I should have assigned a general, but oh well. Okay, this positioning is going to seem weird for a bit, but there is a calculation going on here. I am going to need to work out a plan for getting a settler to that last kind of outpost. All right, what do I want you to do? Treasury, I guess? Or I can take the 10 seasons and get them to... Nah. Like, I do want to follow up on that, but let's build some treasuries before I go too far. I've got 2 spare citizens. Okay, so I don't like the idea of waiting 8 seasons for this, but I'm... Oh, nope, actually this one's already building a settler, so never mind. think I'm, against my better judgment, going to build an onager here. Governor Python the Drunk, governor of Dodona, has died in office. The lessons of Aristotle. Aristotle continues to tutor young Alexander. One day Alexander will surely be fighting in Persia, and Aristotle is keen to offer thoughts on the nature of Persians. He believes that Persians are barbarians, destined to be nothing more by the very virtue of their birth. The natural order of human societies is to practice slavery, Aristotle explains, and it follows that barbarians are meant to be slaves, for they are little more than beasts, unable to rise above their own bodily desires and pursue a greater purpose. Aristotle encourages Alexander to be a hero of the Greek people, to never indulge too much, and to practice self-control in order to distinguish himself from the barbarians. Alexander will heed these words. I don't think I'm going to assign either of these as governor. I kind of need to be careful about where I place things because this area is going to wind up out of space before too long. Alexander will remember this. So we've more or less solved the quarry problem, but we're gonna push hard on these. Okay, I'm gonna heal the worker. That should hopefully speed things up a little bit. And yeah, again, just quarries for days. Okay, you are now known as Philip the Invincible, 70 legitimacy. Okay, this is good. So right now we want to bring up the stragglers. Alright, so things are shaping up to invade Thessaly. It's going to take some work to figure out exactly how I'm going to angle this whole, the remaining conquest of Illyria. But I think at this point here, basically the secondary, these secondary areas kind of need to be managing their own expansion. We're going to make the main force take on the Athenians. Now, the real hope here is that we can get is it Ambracia? And the problem here is it seems to be well guarded. So that's gonna require some thought. More archers probably is the real answer to that, but okay, Philippi, we've built the miner. I don't hate the idea of... Okay, but we don't have a citizen. Okay, so treasury it is. Thessalonica. Doesn't make sense to put a stonecutter here. Doesn't give me any more territory. I am slightly inclined towards a treasury at this point then. because that buys me time. Larissa, I actually don't think it's terrible to go for a gardener, but I like the idea of an onager slightly more. Pella, oh, here I can make a byreme. Not the smartest use of my cash right now, but all right, what the hell am I doing? This is a big priority. All right, clearing scrub. Actually, yeah, honestly, clearing scrub is sufficient for this guy right now. It chews up a whole lot of orders, but I only need to do it once. I don't have that much stone right now. That is such a shame. I was a little premature on the Maceman for Dodona. So we'll work on the stonecutter first. So you can take a break. Yeah, well now I'm at the living with the consequences phase of this. Okay, we'll add a general here. Unfortunately, these remaining generals I'm not crazy about for the axe unit, so I think we're just going to hold off on those. Let's move the archers up. So honestly, a large part of this is just going to be trying to hang on to Larissa with by my fingernails. But yeah, Thessaly's very obviously prepared. We also can buy 2 orders. So just want to get an idea of what I'm up against with the Athenians. Okay, Syracuse. We're already working on a settler, so there's no worry there. I think my default at this point is just to build a treasury. Although we could have built a byreme. Yeah, actually that would have saved us the trouble with Pella, so you know what? Byreme there. Yeah, you know what? More than one byreme doesn't hurt. Eretria gets a treasury. Ephesus gets a worker, then a treasury. Seleucus joins the court. A new court soldier, Seleucus has joined the court. His experience in matters of war will keep Macedonia safe. I actually slightly prefer the idea of a land consolidation. So with that in mind, going for the Court Scholar makes more sense because it lets me draw... Yeah. Okay. Let's deal with the bad guys. I don't know, some of you might be thinking, aren't we the bad guys? No! We're the Greeks. Scholars at the site of Illyria's defeat discover shrines, carvings, and statues depicting the worship of fire. They believe these treasures are associated with the cult of flame, an ancient tribal religion still practiced by many of our subjects. The cult's icons are sacred to its followers, so we should proceed with caution. We can install them in the city to show tolerance, or deface them and smash them to dust. Let's show tolerance, not because I want the Illyrians to like me, but because it gave me other benefits. Okay, so I am going to have to decide when I want to kick this war off. Well, we still have some units we can move up, so... Apparently I wasn't paying attention and this guy became available. I think we'll let them wait, because we're really just going to be waiting for the forests to grow back at this point. And again, we're at the point where I've got... what is it? So we get 217, so we'd have a surplus of 100 next turn. I guess I can assign more of the generals, so let's get... Alright, not quite what I was going to work with, but... I figured the adjacency makes the most sense for the... like these units. And I don't mind dipping into my training here. Okay, got another woodcutter, even more. Settler's done, probably well, stonecutter. I mean, I am going to need to get the fiscal situation in order. Chrysaira. Well, really, at this point, we need to be expanding the reach of our camps, so... Polyperchon joins the court. A new court scholar, Polyperchon has joined the court. His curiosity and insight will aid Macedonia in unraveling the mysteries of the world. Welcome. I pretty much have to take the free onager at this point. It'd be nice to get the infantry square, but free onager is really the only way I'm going to get that. Contest of politics. The Alauidean family stages a contest of politics discussing the merits of our highly centralized state. They request that the court send a royal scholar to defend the status quo. Despite appearances, the Alauideans assure us that their interest in the matter is purely theoretical. Hire a master orator to speak on our behalf, or refuse to debate... oh man. Okay. So this is just a horrible trap all around. But like I just can't afford this much money. So okay, as before, deal with bad guys. Well, before I do that, Ella Ripley, thank you very much for continuing to support the channel. Let's let the arc do its thing. Thank you very much for continuing to support not just the channel, but also giving people a chance to engage more deeply with the emotes and such. You've been remarkably generous. I know your name is pretty much always at the top of the Steam chat in terms of people who've gifted things. I never want to take that for granted. But again, thank you very much, because I know there are a lot of people who really do actually like being able to use those emotes and such. So it does feel great that people have that opportunity. Thank you very much for enabling that. And there's the Aristotle one. Nice. I'm a little surprised we can build the range. I think I will decline to, though. Alright, we're still waiting for the forests to grow back or for our reach to extend. I don't mind cutting more of the scrub. I will actually have to do something useful with this character next turn, though. Alright, this works. I actually don't think it would be a bad idea to build a mine here. Wow. So the next question would be, am I happy with the way things are? Like, not starting the war with Thessaly? I think so. Now, I think where I can, I will build the heavy units. Attalus the commander has fallen ill. The Laconian problem. Macedonia is expanding and cannot ignore Sparta forever. The famous Spartan warriors have so far been happy to stay out of our affairs, but we both understand that our borders are growing closer and that conflict is possible. Sparta firmly controls Laconia, but the region is a poorer one, so they would eventually be defeated in a war. Yet the mountainous terrain and the skills of their warriors in Sparta, all the boys and men are warriors, will surely make such a war troublesome for Macedonia. It would be better to convince Sparta to surrender peacefully. You decide to send an envoy to Sparta with a simple message. If I enter your lands, I will destroy you all, never to rise again. Let us await for their reply. Does anybody have a guess as to what the reply is? Oh boy. Let's deal with the Illyrians before I get too bogged down. Probably no. Interesting. Alright. It's a fun one. I'm going to skip the link on this one just because we don't have a whole lot of time left, and let's see if we can get to the Spartan reply. A crumbling prison stands in the Illyrian settlement. Scores of soldiers and citizens from Macedonia have been languishing here for years, most believed dead by their loved ones. Their release calls for celebration. An extra citizen in Ephesus, or arm them and put them to the front. I gotta have a phalange. So, we've completed the goal, eliminate the Illyrians. Okay. So we need settlers to actually claim these, but we can make that happen. Let's say... Okay, well, first of all, let's clear out the riffraff. I may regret this, but let's declare war on Thessaly. Okay, so we clearly need to eliminate this archer first. Are you kidding me? We're doing some pretty good work here. So again, we got to hold the line at Larissa, but given the fact that Traisa is going to fall pretty quickly, things are looking good. Didn't I upgrade you? Oh, no, different one. Okay, I think I just gotta settle with a woodcutter at this point. Treasury's done and we're still in debt. The real problem I have here right now is just I don't have... Actually, maybe I just start making these people make... the settlers aren't enough. Like, I don't dislike the idea of building more military units here, but that's not the most immediate need. I think I'll make an officer just so I can get the benefit of the extra training. Sporting chances. With the increasing recognition of the city of Ephesus as a center of culture, there has been a movement from the elders to host a festival of archery. A decree was swiftly issued stating that in Ephesus no other sports be practiced. Rival factions have risen up, arguing that wrestling or horse riding provide better sport. The beleaguered city looks to you. Which shall you favor? Ephesus... I guess it doesn't really matter too much what it produces, but I think we're going to go for wrestling. News arrives from abroad that Bartolus is dead. Queen Gorgo now leads Illyria. Scared to take any risks or even make mistakes, Oligarch Lysander of Dodona has become timid. Queen Consort Olympias, your wife, is thankfully feeling much better now. She is no longer ill. Sparta responds. A response to our demands has arrived from Sparta. It reads, if. A full invasion of Sparta would be a lot of risk for little reward, but we have to ensure they witness the power of Macedonian armies firsthand. Some skirmishing in Laconia would be to our advantage, and victories there should dissuade Sparta from seeking an opportunity to harm us. We will show them how Macedonia fights. Okay, Governor and Agai. It could be Carpenter, Cunning, or Robust. Robust, for sure. Okay, let's deal with the city. Now, we could lose this unit if we're not careful, so... In fact, it's probably better that I pull this unit back. Alright, that's a decent day's work, although we did leave this guy sort of out and running around. I'm going to settle for Fierce, even though that's not immediately applicable to this current situation. Again, we just need to hang on to Larissa. Okay, next up. Get rid of them pesky Illyrians once and for all. So we need to get 2 settlers down here to set these up. Otherwise these units are going to be occupied for no good reason. However, given that these are hoplites, we'll maybe switch out the unit type. Alright, maybe with the scout. Treasury... No, we definitely want... Oh dear. Trying to get more fuel for my war machine, and it's starting to run out. I am going to build some more mines, just because I don't think there's going to be a shortage of iron needs. We cut the scrub. Now, this is flat. This is hilly, though. Okay, I think we can end the season. Alright, land consolidation's a little silly right now, but I'm going for it. Apollonia! Alright, this is good. We will... build a treasury, then a worker on this one. Corsaira. Okay, this has opened up a lot of new territory for the woodcutter. Retria... Good lord. Settlers. And I think it's probably a stonecutter for a number of reasons, but... Okay, actually, we didn't get access to that much more forestry, but... We don't actually need as much stone as I'm... Like, I sort of am implying by what I'm building, but I don't mind this effort. I think we're out of options here. Well, we're out of options, but we can cross over to the next area. So again, lots of wood so that we can continue to build our advanced units. I built this iron mine so that we can expand our borders to get that gold mine, otherwise we go bankrupt. Let's go... That's interesting, they want me to build the necropolis. I am going to settle for more quarries. Alright, this one's a tough one for me because I don't want to, like, I don't want to squander my stone, but on the other hand, well, you know what? Barracks are justifiable. Yeah, well, again, I'm potentially making things awkward for Trapezus, but let's keep building quarries. I'm going to skip the worker for now. They can train while they heal. Ah. Timely. I think we need to get this thing to Dodona somehow. I feel this is one of those cases where I can justify spending up. I don't want to be reckless about it, but... So, like, one thing I won't do here is I won't move some of these other units up. We can move as one big group. But yeah, for the rest of this, I think I'll be a little less active in terms of my workers next turn. I think we're going to focus on the fight against Thessaly, finish that off, and then depending on how things are going against with Demosthenes, we might make our move, or we might hold back. Prince Alexander is now old enough to be tutored by courtiers. War Games. King Archidamus, the ambitious of Sparta, requests a boon from us. Recent campaigns have left Sparta short on trained manpower, and Archidamus would be very grateful if we could lend him some of our veterans to train his men. No. Alexander's career. It is usually not clear how best to educate an heir. Some display particular aptitudes and interests, others do not. As Prince Alexander turns into a man, his future could not be more clear. He spends every day preparing for combat, and his ambitions are greater than to be a mere soldier. Alexander will begin to receive formal lessons in military tactics and strategy, and will continue to benefit from the wisdom of other tutors in our court as well. I hope the instructors will be able to keep up with Alexander's passion. Okay. Let's focus on military matters, because I've let that slide a couple times. Now again, the Onager is in preparation for a fight with... Oh my god! No! really wanted to somehow make that force march work. I feel like I gotta heal these guys. Okay, so the threat to Larissa is gone now. Well, this doesn't necessarily mean... So my usual experience of this scenario has been once we go to war with the Athenian alliance, there is an absolutely enormous army that kind of comes out of nowhere and murders me. Actually, this will be a good time. I'm going to save here. And that's just so that if I do wind up in that situation again, I can maybe move the scout around and sort of see where they come from. Alright. I will confess I would prefer to be going in with a stronger army than I have. Technically I have 2 more just because of the training. Okay, I'll live with it. We'll have more moves when the war is done. I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I don't hate it, but I don't love it. Duke Makatis is now old enough to be tutored by courtiers. Long fall. Palace servants bring terrible news. Your son, Maticus, was climbing the fruit tree along with the high wall when he lost his balance and fell. He was killed instantly. How will you celebrate the life of precious Macatus? Statue in the palace garden or a public funeral procession? Public funeral procession. All right. I should be tutoring Alexander. Okay, let's see if we can finish off. So I wonder if I do one of these. Nice. Move you up to finish the job. Okay, it's not 100% what I had planned, but you know what? I like what I can do here. Not the most glamorous part, but we do want to heal up all the units. Alright. I think things are looking pretty good. Oh, what do I do with you? We've got more, sort of more stone than I know what to do with right now. Which, it's a nice place to be, like, I'm not complaining about that. In fact, we can go back to building again finally. And it looks like I can maybe even make some minor progress on moving the bireme. Although we'll probably have a closer one reasonably soon. Yeah, Syracuse will have a bireme ready to go. Although I don't have any military units in the air. Oh no, that's not true. We'll take it with one guy. Alright, almost certainly we go for another Phalangite. Okay. I'm trying to think what I might want to do. Yeah, this will have to do. And again, the money thing's got to get resolved, so at this point I'm kind of defaulting to treasuries. Oligarch Lysander of Dodona is feeling ill, lightheaded, and weak. Okay, we can continue to build more lumber mills. I should be focusing on military matters, but I do actually want to start getting my workers kind of back into productivity mode. Oh dear. You know what? I think I'm okay with quarries for a bit, so we're going to go back to making mines, and then I actually think we want to start working on some urban improvements. Garrison gives me the Garrison gives me the orders, so I want to build as many of those as I can. Doesn't really matter where I build it, but okay, let's get to work on the bad guys. What am I missing here? Okay, don't have the citizens for Philippopolis to continue its work. We don't have enough wood for an archer, though. Damn. Put on a festival for one turn. Trapezus. It's not a hardship to expand the quarries. Okay, and then I do actually have one more order if I want it. Not only do I want it, but I'm actually going to spend quite a few more. So we won't use everyone, but Okay, if I lose this Byreme, I'm gonna be furious. Polypecron, the scientist, has been feeling quite poor lately and is now ill. Oh, God, what do I even want to do? I mean, Pikeman's interesting, but I already have a pretty powerful unit. I feel like maybe we go for the market in order to try and get the economy back. Let's not improve relations with anyone. All right. Before I do anything, let's just finish this business with the Thessalians. Oh, fair enough. Not exactly, Rayum the Moth. It's probably better to say. So the order system is the one that doesn't fit tidily. The best kind of account of what this game is, in my opinion, is it's the answer to the question, what would 4X games look like if they had been invented in the 2020s, or like late 2000, or well, sorry, late 2010, 2020s. It's still very much a 4X and very combat focused 4X game, but the order system. So first of all, like, the order system definitely adds another dimension to this, which I often tend not to respect. And then the individual relationships among the different members of the court, I think, is like, it's not just there for flavor. I think there's something specific being added there. Okay, I really should find something to do with my civics. I know, like, usually it's something like rally troops for the extra training, and I could certainly use that to get more orders and such, but I don't know. I think maybe one thing I should do is try to upgrade the slingers. Yeah, so healing, upgrading slingers, and then we do kind of need to get on with it, so I don't know. I have a lot of units tied up here, which shouldn't be. No, it definitely has a very robust multiplayer community. Oh man, that's just free hits I gave them on that. So I'm trying to get a little clever here and give a bridge that the this unit can use. It's gonna be tough. Like, we can do some meaningful damage here, but I don't know if we can take on 3 units at once. Anyways, let's focus on recovery first. Okay. It's probably better if I just consult this list, actually. So basically there shouldn't be any slingers left. We can also upgrade Axemen. Now, obviously, at some point, we're actually going to need to move everything in place for a war against the Athenians. I think at this point it's treasury. If we can build a treasury, we have to build a treasury. I don't think I have any other options at this point. Olympus is Macedonian. Today all of Macedonia celebrates a grand milestone in our expansion. The entirety of Thessaly is ours, from the divine Mount Olympus to the very earthly tracts of farmable land and the best breeds of horses in all of Greece. No one can doubt our strength now. A new court soldier, Aspasia, has joined the court. Her experience in matters of war will help us keep Macedonia safe. Okay, more lumber. All right. I don't... Well, hang on. Okay, with the remaining 4, it's gonna be a long wait. I am looking forward to this mine, but like it's probably not going to solve all of my gold problems. Duchess Cleopatra is now old enough to be tutored by courtiers. King Philip the Invincible is thankfully feeling much better now and is no longer ill, and the grieving of King Philip the Invincible is at an end. He is no longer mourning. The nightmare returns. You find yourself in your bedchamber surrounded by your guards. They say they heard you scream as if in combat and rushed in to help. Their words trigger a memory of the nightmare you saw mere minutes ago, but that was already slipping your mind. You remember crowds, the flash of iron weapons and familiar faces. Alexander, Olympias, even Pausanias, one of your lovers. It has been many years since you had a nightmare that felt real. The fates are reminding you that, unlike the great Heracles, you will not grow old. I never expected to die a peaceful death at 80. The scenario will end once Philip dies. His death is growing closer. So there's no excuses. Alexander's still being tutored, right? Yeah, okay. So, get ready to move on these folks. I'm also going to take a second here. Anything that needs healing should get it. Well, within reason. Some of these need to protect city sites. Okay, so now, like, this is the time where we want to actually bring in some people to help. Now, I don't want to block the road. Oh man, we really have to be one... I could probably actually get an answer to that. Range 2 to 4. No, that should do the trick. Okay, next up. Workers. Let's move out to the right, if I can. This will have to do. So I'm still putting a slight priority on... I still want to put a priority on the garrisons just because it's the sort of thing that will let me get some extra orders to manage my somewhat unwieldy army now. Let's move these folks up. Okay, so with 8 moves left, I want to start thinking about how I'm going to be able to make some moves against the Athenians. That's a waste of a move. I think I'm gonna have to settle for Grappler. Alright, let's move this scout and see what we're up against. So yeah, this is wide open right now. Dodona. Treasury. Thessalonica. I guess a quarry? Okay. And a ballista seems like a big improvement. So as always, let's make sure the workers are doing something to support the war effort where they can. And yes, we do want to still put down things like barracks. Tough crowd. All right. We're running out of money. So that's not even a kill. But fortunately they can't do that much damage to me, so we should be fine. Okay, so we're going to promote first, but I want to start getting some generals down on these folks. Now, this one's a tough one. Where's Terrace again? This one, okay. Yeah, I'm trying to decide who builds the settler. I think we do treasury here. So many governor options. Good lord. Let's get them to the front. Whoa, not time yet. I do think we need to start moving people towards it, though. And I think we're going to need more archers. Yeah, so this is just going to suck for a little while, and then... And we're clearly not going to have the same progress on the woods as we used to, so let's start building some garrisons. Good news is we're making pretty good progress in terms of, like, just everything's sort of falling into place now, so I can start making some more long-term decisions about where I want to take things. So for instance, I like this idea of a market just because it'll give me some more money. Alright, now, we're on to the hard bit. When do we decide to go after the Athenians? And then the next question would be, do we push hard on Thermopylae, or do we try and bring a bunch of people into Delphi as well? I don't dislike the idea of two separate attacks. But if memory serves, the Athenians are not pushovers in this. I don't want to get reckless with the spending, but... Alright. These guys... I think we'll settle for treasury. Tricca. Treasury. Philippopolis. Trapezus. This one's a hard one, actually. I think I'm going to settle for a festival there. Surely a gardener will help things here. Ephesus, probably another treasury. It's hard though, because the settler would help me out a lot too. Settler first. Ouch. General Craterus, general of the Phalangite, takes deep pleasure in his own achievements. It is no lie to call him proud. With a mild fever and runny nose, General Arisone of Philippopolis, general of the Macemen, is rather ill. Dear Father, we have received an update from your son in trading. He complains about the harshness of military exercises and weapon drills, and he wishes us to hire a veteran soldier to tutor him privately. Okay, this is one reason why I was sitting on all this food. We are proud and will send a tutor promptly. We do not want a timid Alexander. Okay. Now, there's no way this thing survives if I keep it. Oh, you're kidding me. Okay. Off by 1. This is a pretty weak force to be going after Thermopylae with. So I think I've changed my mind. I think we are going to focus down. Too many orders. All right. Larissa, what do I want from you? Olives? It's probably not the smartest thing for me to be focusing on right now. You know what? I'm actually going to start doing some festivals. Because we have a lot of discontent, and I have a feeling that's maybe why my money is the way that it is. Favorite spouse, Olympias and Eurydice are squabbling about which of them is your favorite. As neither of them wants to concede to the other, they demand that you settle matters once and for all. Please stop, I value you both equally. Olympias, of course. Okay, this is a welcome development. Do I want a premature war with Athens? No. I need at least one more turn of this. Okay, what on earth do I do to set this up right? Let's focus on governance for a little bit. So first of all, I want to make sure all my units actually have... I don't have a general for this one. Alright, I'm gonna have to learn to live with disappointment. I just need some progress. Because again, we can take these out one each turn. So we might have to take another detour, but... Now, let's order the cities by... culture. No, he's a good general. Now we are ready to make a worker. Although, again, probably the focus is going to be on military matters fairly soon. We could skip you. I don't want to skip you, but I think I have to. Well, maybe not. Jesus. This will do. Okay, I have a few more options available to me than I thought I did. Let's go... I will make that market, I think. Oh, can I not? Oh, it probably wants me to make it over here. Alright, did Hamlets get... No, it's Odeons and Bath. Well, we can still put an Odeon. Nah, it's kind of close to the border. I think we can make this work. I just need to be a little more thoughtful. I should be moving these people to the front. Oh, lordy. Okay, what do I even do here? We'll move what we can. Alright, back to Thessalonica. Yeah, and I'm thinking maybe festivals just try to keep the unhappiness from getting out of control. This one's a little harder just because we do want to actually extend our reach. Okay, so we kind of knew that this would be a consequence. Oligarch Lysander of Dodona has died. Chancellor Arete of Dodona is now head of the Chaonian family. Their opinion of you has gone from angry to upset. Diplomatic discussions. Court diplomats have been hard at work on discussions with representatives from both Sparta and the Athenian alliance, but they wish to focus their efforts. Which nation should they seek to influence, Sparta or the Athenian alliance? None. Bucephalus, a trader by the name of Philonicius, has approaches you with an offer to buy Bucephalus, a massive horse of the very best Thessalian breed. You can easily tell that the animal is a strong but remarkable specimen, but it is not tame. None of your grooms can mount Bucephalus, or even get the horse to stand still for them. Philonicius demands a hefty price for the animal, as you marvel at the insolence of trying to sell an untamed horse that has more in common with the mares of Diomedes than with domesticated animals. Prince Alexander protests that you are about to lose a great horse just because none of the grooms have the skills or the courage to tame it. Do you believe that you know more than your elders? Do you think that you can tame horses better than my grooms? You ask the young Alexander. I can tame this one, Alexander responds, and if I cannot, I will pay the price for the horse myself. Alright. This is gonna sting. Pay what Philonicius asks and let Alexander try. Alexander walks towards Bucephalus, speaking softly. He takes hold of the horse's bridle and turns the animal towards the sun, having observed that the movement of its own shadow was scaring Bucephalus. Alexander lets the horse move forward, running alongside it and stroking it gently. As Bucephalus grows visibly eager, Alexander lets his cloak fall to the ground and mounts the horse with a single leap. Seated atop Bucephalus, Alexander draws the bridle in and curbs the horse without striking it once. He lets the massive steed gallop at full speed, firmly commanding with his voice. After riding a lap, Alexander returns and dismounts in front of you and the stunned Philonicius, a look of triumph on his youthful face. Macedonia is too small for you, my son. May he find a kingdom big enough for his ambitions. All right, let's get some work done. Pretty much always have to go for the treasury now. Well, that's an interesting change. At this point, I'm just trying to make money however I can. Although in this case, we're going to go and make another barracks. Actually, before any of that, this is... I am going to have to wrap this up, but I am most curious... because I have reasonably good vision on the Athenians, I am actually kind of curious what happens if I start this war. So let's move the units in first. A little worried about putting Philip so close to the front like that, but okay, so it doesn't seem to be any difference in terms of what happens to Thermopylae. Well, let's double check that. So obviously these archers are very badly exposed. Alright. So... oh, what are you doing? Besieger. New recruits seizing portions of Ambracia. Our soldiers encounter Athenian jails full of foreign captives. Once freed, many of these prisoners offer to replenish our forces on the front lines. Shall these prisoners join our military ranks, or do we grant them asylum in Dodona? Arm them and send them into battle. So that's a nice little refresher against this unit. I don't even know what I want to put in here. More festivals. So I'm very curious to see how the Athenians respond to this, because they should have a force that just comes in and clobbers these guys. There they are. So, I mean, it's one unit, it's not the end of the world, but... oh my god, I completely forgot. Okay. I'm gonna have to reload that turn anyway. I think I'm gonna call it here. So the problem is I used up all my turns. I used up all my turns before taking that unit's action, and I do actually need to... I do need to do that. So, we are going to load back... see here. Actually, I guess it won't matter for the autosave whether I quit here or not. But I am not at all clear on whether or not I have what it takes to finish this off. I might even just hold off on doing the invasion one more time. It would be interesting to see if maybe I can use my navy to stop some of this transport. I don't think... Well, maybe. So if we do something like this, I don't quite see how they're able to get their troops where they need. Obviously, there's still going to be something that can cause us trouble here. But what I'm really looking to do is wipe out this unit. There we go. And I mean, again, it's going to be a bloody fight for against the Athenian alliance. And the biggest problem that I have here is, like, this is my entire force. I think the game might even give me an... Yeah, so it's a similar power, right? So the difference here is that if I lose any of these units, I'm done. Whereas if they lose the units, they just, replenish and move on. But anyways, we'll make it... We'll figure it out. We'll make it work. It should be an education. But I am going to stop playing here because I am actually almost an hour over, and I have a early and big day at work tomorrow. So I'm going to do my best to make sure that I get everything recorded for Book of Hours on tomorrow. I will be back Wednesday for Phantom Brigade, unless I'm feeling ridiculously sick. And then Friday we should be ready for some more Cyberpunk. Thank you everybody for watching. I know I kind of stopped talking about the strategy a bit. That's kind of one regret I have about going later, but I'll try and I'll get better. Anyways, thank you everybody for watching. Please enjoy Kilgore Trout, who is playing Enslaved Odyssey. I don't know what that is. But anyways, fellow Canadian, I will leave you in his capable hands. Have a good night, everybody.